Hell, oh my God, what's going on? Oh, there we are. The camera's back. So I did miss the conversation. So if Sexy Mexi is here, no, it's all good. You look away, Mexi. Hey, Lan, do you know the Suzanne Capers case from 1998? I do not. I do not know that one. I do not know it, Mexi. Jesus, we went from 9 people to 3. How's that possible? I do not know Suzanne Caper, but I might have to look it up then, won't I? So, Asana P says, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining. Please hit the like button, subscribe to YouTube, and notification bell. Hit that notification bell away and press all. Now, replay crew, we've just come away, just finished the live stream of day 2B, so we're here. So we can skip for the next 5 minutes once I get prepped for this. But this is why we're all like, hey, here she is, Mummy is here, naked dance. Boom, 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 go, Nunya, boom, 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 boom. Let's go, Nunya, let's go, Nunya. Reach to the stars, no mountain too high, no valley too low. Let's go, Nunya, let's trip off. I don't know where I'm going with this, so let's end it there. Those of you that are not members and want to become a member, please consider becoming a Blue Wench or a Tackle Club member. I think one is $5 and the other one's $3. So you get access to Discord and you get access to all my members only streams. So am I not worth it? Well, I mean that's debatable. But you support the channel, you support me, that's my wages. But thank you everybody. None yet, bacon cheeseburgers. Oh, it is nice. I don't have it very often, but I think it's nice. Also, the official Alternate Corner merch store. Go and take a look. Have a snoop around. Kimmy's here, liking the video. Happy days, Kimmy. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider a donation to Stream Elements, which is aka PayPal. Never required, but always appreciated. Thank you, guys. Kimmy, Monica's here. Monica made it. Um, got an ad about menopause. Well, I mean, you get to a certain age, therapy. They know you well. Monica, let the arts play on me mobile. Let's go. Thank you, Lunia. Monica's laughing. Look at her shaking me saggies. Let's go, nuns. Right, I need to set up this next stream. Don't say to them. I just said. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying. YouTube are very rude. Um, hello, Monica C as well. Right, let's get this set up. Let's get it all. Let's get it on. How did I lose so many people? I got like 9 people came over, and then I lost everybody straight away. Why, Delilah? Da, 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 da. I'm just gonna get day 3, and then we'll play it for me. Forgive me, Delilah. Da, 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 da. So we are going to be playing all day 3 today. However long that is, right? Oh, hang on, I know what I'm doing. Let's go back one. Di, 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 so it's about 4 hours and 40 minutes. This trial is day 3. So we're considering this 6 and 8. Okay, it's not too bad. Right, nothing wrong with the old visuals there, dudes. It's all good. It's age, isn't it? Right, let me present to you, share screen. Mexi's Mexi here. Mexi, if she's here, I did see the message. I know I've not seen that trial or heard about it, but I will look into it. I love Maxie. Sexy Maxie. I love her voice. Sexy Maxie. Right, here we go. Are we ready? Let's go.
This morning to testify. 9:30 this morning to testify. That was the only issue I wanted to raise for the court.
Okay, for his testimony, will you be using
I will not.
the screen there? All right.
Ms. Garcia will not.
Oh, Ms. Garcia, you're going to?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Okay, well, I don't think that will be an issue. Let me see. State defense. Comment on Mr. Parnell? Any issue with the attorney for the Behavioral Center appearing virtually when Mr. Copeland testifies?
Are they going to be up on the screen or just able to view it?
I don't know exactly what you had intended, Mr. Wiggins. I'm assuming it was just they're able to view it.
I was about to instruct him that he needs to make sure his mic is off and his camera's off. So the jury is going to be should be, unless for some reason he decides he's got a basis to interject, should be none the wiser that he is appearing virtually.
Then that's fine. My concern was if there's a big floating head behind the testifying witnesses.
That would be
Let's move
problematic.
away.
My issue, interject in what capacity? Just, they haven't filed a motion to be an intervener, so I can't imagine him wanting to or feeling as if it would be appropriate since they are not an intervener, hadn't filed a motion.
I can't imagine either. I can't imagine either.
And during the deposition, the attorney was present and had nothing to say other than announcing his presence. So I expect it's just wanting to be known because I don't know what basis they would have to interject either.
Not at all.
for trade
Okay.
secrets or anything.
So if you can let the attorney know, and who is that attorney for the hospital?
Jordan Bockenheimer, Bachenheimer.
I will lie, that does sound
All right,
amazing.
so if you can let Mr. Bockenheimer know, camera off, mute on.
Your Honor, may I just step outside and call him just for one moment?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Did the-
Well, before we do that, let me see if the defense has any issue. Mr. Parnell, does the defense have any issues that they need to raise before we begin today? Okay, thank you very much. All right, well, we will be in recess until we get all of our jurors back in.
Yeah, 5. I mean, 6 so far.
We have 6? All right. Doing pretty good for a Monday. 9:03 and we have 6. That's great.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Let's go. I'm just trying to prep this. I am. There's not much interest in this trial for whatever reason. Probably people see before. If my wife doesn't get into this a week, they're super rich and I don't eat more than like a bite at a time. They'd be gone and they say to me, pull that in front of me, John, it's gone. Say to me, where's Mary? Mary Viviano, Mary quite contrary. Mary Viviano from New York, where are you? You're always here, but I've not seen you today. I've seen you in the other trial, but not in this trial. Where are you, Mary? Mary, quite contrary. Emma's missing, she's still in Cardiff, I imagine, so I'm missing you as always. Danny, did you make it over? I don't know if Danny made it over. As we heard from Hens last night, she's got a lot of stuff going on. I don't know with Jan or Katie or anybody are, or whether they're going to be following the other trial or not. Which it's a shame because I think they did enjoy it, but Sandra's the same. But what can I do? I haven't seen Josie today.
Yes, Your Honor, I just spoke to the attorney. He's booting up his computer. I suggested that he test the link and his ability to turn his camera off and his mic off. So I don't know if we could activate the remote session to ensure that he'll figure that out.
Welcome to an Econo meeting.
Okay, let's do that. Just so that I can, no, let's, if that's to the extent that Ms. Tucker could be impeached on that issue, if there are questions that needed to be asked regarding what she did in order to get her to take this,
B as in boy, EL.
Mr. Wiggins.
Good morning, Mr. Debo.
Right, here we go. Lou was moving, you see. Lou was moving. So she's just busy with work and moving houses and stuff. So I imagine that's where she's at, to be quite honest with you. But if I don't see her Saturday, I'll drop her a message just to see where she is. Remind me. People remind me to drop Lou a message next week if she's not there Saturday. Anything on my desk because she's notorious for not being expensive.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I hope everyone had a good weekend and was able to rest up. Just want to make sure we go through our general questions. Anyone listen to the news or any coverage of this particular case while we were in recess? I see everyone shaking their heads no. Okay, all right, then let's bring
Getting home and we finished him and we're ready for the next one.
You made me nervous for a second, Your Honor.
Just maybe that's it.
Here we go. You get this guy's name and then we'll put the banner up.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Good morning, sir. Would you please state your name for the record and spell your first and last name?
Ma'am, Peter Heydrich Diebel, Peter. Diebel is D as in David, IE, B as in boy, EL.
Mr. Wiggins.
Good morning, Mr. Debo.
I did.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Sure. My name is Pete Diebel. I grew up around here, grew up in Winter Park, have lived most of my life.
Well, I didn't even catch that.
Mr.
Diebel, Peter. Diebel is D as in David, IE, B as in boy, EL.
Mr. Wiggins.
I can't. I don't know what he said.
Morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Sure. My name is Pete Diebel. I grew up around here, grew up in Winter Park, have lived most of my life in or across the street from Winter Park. I own a company called Zipline Green. We do renewably powered infrastructure, so transport, pipelines, power systems, those kinds of things.
Did you come to know the Redlick family?
Yes, sir.
Could you explain to the jury how it is you came to know the Redlick family?
Sure. For the last 10 years, I've been coaching youth baseball at Winter Park Babe Ruth. We actually met through their son because he had played in a game against us, and I was very impressed with his sportsmanship, and he knew some of the other kids on my team, and so then we got him on our team, and from there got to know Sawyer and the rest of the family, and at one point Mike even coached with us for a season.
Did this relationship that was born out of a mutual interest in sports and then being on the same sports team eventually develop into a friendship?
It did, yeah.
If you didn't already specify, about how many years ago are we talking that you kind of first meet Sawyer and then meet Michael?
So I met Sawyer. We played against him. It was the spring of, I want to say 2015, probably. He was 7 years old, so that's probably about right. And then in the fall, we do fall ball for developmental stuff, and they joined the team at that point, and that was when I got to know Mike and Danielle and the rest of the family.
Were you coaching?
I was.
Was Michael coaching?
For one season, yes.
Is that when you started getting sort of more acquainted with Michael?
Yeah.
And is that what led to you guys becoming family friends?
Yes.
When did you guys start hanging out socially outside of the sort of sports field context?
Probably that fall, maybe the next spring. So maybe spring of 2016, but because that's when we actually coached together. I just met them in that first fall season. But really what drove it was my son Riley and Sawyer and Ryan English were kind of like the three amigos. I can't tell you how many pictures I have around my house of them out doing stuff together. So.
Is it through this relationship, the sort of three amigos relationship, that you also get to know Danielle Redlick?
Yes.
Would your family and the Redlick family spend time together?
Yes, we went to a lot of same events with a lot of the same baseball families, and then we did actually travel together one time. My family has a place over at New Smyrna, and we invited them over for spring break, and so I think we spent 4 or 5 days together at the beach.
Would the Redlick family, Michael, Danielle, and the kids ever come over to your house for gatherings?
We went to their house more often than not, but there were a few times at our house, yes.
Through these years, do you feel that you got to know Michael on a personal level?
I do.
Got to know his personality?
Yes.
Got to know how he interacts with people?
Yes.
Did you get to know Danielle on a personal level?
I did. I would
Sorry.
say that my relationship with her toward the end was more of a politeness, my friend's wife kind of a thing.
Were you aware that Michael Redlick had moved out of the home he shared with Danielle and the kids?
It was.
Do you recall the evening of January 11th, 2019?
I do.
What were the plans that evening?
So again, we're baseball family. So the kids always wanted to play flag football. We found a league that had games on Friday evenings, it didn't conflict with anything else. So they would do an hour of practice and then an hour of game. And it was great. The kids got to play some football and honestly, for a baseball coach, we didn't have to worry about them missing baseball in order to get to do that. And so, and I was not a coach of the football. Mike was, along with two other gentlemen that I also knew through baseball. And that evening, the players and the coaches are kind of across the field from us. We all kind of set up lawn chairs and you're there to watch kids play football. So I was sitting there and I remember because
Objection narrative.
I'll sustain it.
Let me ask you some questions about being at the game. You mentioned you set up in a lawn chair.
Yeah.
When you set up in a lawn chair, was Michael Redlick already involved in the coaching of the game?
he was, yes,
When you arrive and he's coaching, are you having any interactions with him?
not at that point.
When you arrive and you set up in your lawn chair, do you end up encountering Danielle Redlick?
Yes, she came in a few minutes after me and set down her chair next to me.
Did you interact? Approximately what time are we talking about?
The game, I believe that game was an 8 o'clock game, so this would have been after the practice, so probably 7:45. I mean, that's a guess, but makes sense.
In the evening hours
Yes,
of the 11th.
yes.
Did you interact with Miss Redlick now that she sort of sat up next to you in this chair?
I said hello, and she said hello, but it was not what I would characterize as a normal interaction.
What about this even limited interaction with Danielle struck you as not normal?
She was quieter than usual, distracted maybe.
Did you have an opportunity to observe her more than just that hello and get a better sense of kind of the demeanor and attitude she had that night?
Yeah, well, my wife sat down near us on a blanket and we were all kind of chit-chatting, more them than me, but I was there listening. And she had mentioned at one point that she had taken some NyQuil earlier.
What was the demeanor now you're observing Miss Redlick have as she's interacting with your wife and others?
I mean, it was more animated than it was with me, but still not as animated as normal.
Did you observe that she seemed upset or on edge about something?
I think the comment that I made at the time was that she seemed off, and I couldn't really place it. But then in my own thought, I thought, well, if she is on NyQuil, then maybe that's it. But she just seemed different.
Would you eventually have an encounter with Michael Redlick?
Yes.
Where did that encounter occur?
That was after the game. They finished the game. They met with the boys, and we were both heading towards our cars, and I hadn't seen him beforehand, and so I kind of went up and did we did that man hug where you shake hands and hug and just kind of hey, how are you? Haven't seen you in a bit. And he was cordial, and Mike was always one of those people that would really focus on the person that he was with, and so he was very good at eye contact and just focusing on that person. So
was there something about how he interacted with you in that particular moment that was different than what you were used to?
Yeah, he was distracted. I mean, it was, again, in my heart of hearts, I would have said off, but I mean, his handshake was not the normal firm, gregarious kind of a thing that we would get. He just seemed like he needed to go somewhere, like almost like I've done my coaching, now I need to leave.
Did you see Danielle and Mike interact at all?
No.
I have no further questions of this witness.
Vince, Anna?
Good morning.
Morning.
So your
But how can I sit myself down? I've not touched it. I've not touched it.
perception of Michael Redlick on the night of January 11th was that he seemed distracted.
Yes, ma'am.
And as soon as the game was done, he wanted to leave.
Yeah.
Okay. And your perception of Danielle was that she was quiet.
Quieter than usual, yes.
No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Wiggins, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, sir. You may step down. State your next witness, please.
Your Honor, this time the state is actually going to ask to continue to publish Exhibit 21 to the jury.
21.
Yes, Your Honor.
Good morning, Ms. Tucker.
Morning.
Would you feel comfortable taking your mask off?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Sometimes you're a little soft-spoken, so you could just do your best to speak up so the jury could hear you. Where do you live?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Back in 2019, did you live in the Orlando area?
In 2014?
2019.
Oh, yes.
When you were living here in the Orlando area, were you employed by the Department of Children and Families as a child protective investigator?
Yes.
What were your job duties as a child protective investigator?
I'll go out to the home and investigate child abuse, neglect, abandonment, and dependency of the children.
Okay, you're a little soft. I need you to project so the back of the room hears you, and most importantly, these folks. Okay. Is that a law enforcement position?
No.
Were you assigned a case by the Department of Children and Families on January 12th, 2019 that caused you to come in contact with Jaden Sawyer and later Danielle Redlick?
Yes.
Would you please explain to the jury how it is that you were assigned to this particular case?
I was working overnight on call, and I received a call from my supervisor that I had a case to go out on.
Do some calls that come into DCF require an immediate response?
Yes.
In this case, were the children without parents or a local family member that could take care of them?
Yes.
In those situations, does DCF step in to make sure the kids have a safe place to live?
Yes.
As part of being assigned to investigate a report like this, do you receive some information about the nature of the call?
Yes.
And in this particular assignment, did it include a description of what was known about the events leading up to Michael Redlick's death?
Yes.
Pursuant to your job duties, did you make contact with Sawyer and Jaden that night?
Yes.
Were you also required as part of your job duties to make contact with Danielle Redlick?
Yes.
Did you, in fact?
Yes.
When did you make contact with Ms. Redlick?
The next day
Where was that?
at the Central Florida Behavior Center.
Can you describe the setting, the sort of the room, the scene where you made contact with Ms. Redlick?
Just a room. It had chairs, a table and chairs, and then a couch, like a sofa on one side.
How are you dressed?
I had on my DCF shirt, badge, and pants.
When you say badge, do you mean like
my DCF ID.
this type of badge?
Not necessarily, but yeah, similar.
Okay, but not like a police officer badge. What was the purpose of making contact with Ms. Redlick on the 13th?
To discuss the report that we had received, and then to ensure that the children had somewhere safe to go.
At the outset of meeting Ms. Redlick, do you explain who you're with?
Yes.
And did you explain why you were there to speak with her?
Yes.
I'm showing defense counsel what is marked as states BP for identification purposes.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Tucker, I'm showing you what's been marked as states BP for identification purposes. It's a 2-page exhibit. Will you look at both pages and look up and I'll ask you some questions? Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes.
Do you recognize it as a fair and accurate depiction of the pamphlet or rights and responsibilities form that you provided Ms. Redlick at the outset of your contact with her?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would seek to move into evidence what is marked as states BP for identification purposes.
Any objection?
No objection.
EP will be admitted as the next numbered exhibit.
State Exhibit 56.
Hold on just a second. His ED is here.
I can just provide it Your Honor, for them to review. I'll wait.
Okay.
Pause my direct.
Please.
For my dinner. burger with bacon, chips.
Ms. Tucker, this is a copy of the form that you provided Ms. Redlick before you began speaking with her.
Yes,
Did you take an opportunity to review it?
yes.
Just a little bit louder, please. And the form.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
Was there anyone else in the room?
No.
Did you make Ms. Redlick any promises, or did you issue any threats in order to get Ms. Redlick to talk to you?
No.
During the course of this interview, did you ask Ms. Redlick some questions that led to her disclosing some details about the circumstances of her husband's death?
Yes.
In addition to dealing with the issue related to the care of the children who had no parents, it was also your responsibility to ensure that the home they were going to return to was a safe home.
Yes.
From the information that you were provided when you were initially assigned the case, did you understand that there had been some potential act of violence within the home?
Yes.
As Ms. Redlick is talking to you and sharing these details about the circumstances of her husband's death, are you taking notes at the same time?
Yes.
Would you take those notes in your memory and reduce the notes in your recollection of that conversation to a report?
Yes.
How soon after your meeting with Ms. Redlick did you begin writing the report that included your notes in your memory?
Later that night,
So what time did this interview begin?
around 10:15 in the morning.
It's later that same night you began writing the report.
Correct.
And was the interview that you conducted still fresh in your memory when you wrote the report?
Yes.
And you used your notes also to help write the report?
Yes.
Did Ms. Redlick start by sharing some details about the challenges in her marriage over the course of the last year?
Yes.
Tell the jury what she shared with you.
She just stated that they had a rough year with due to infidelity, Mr. Redlick's infidelity. So they have been arguing a lot due to infidelity.
Did she share with you whether or not Mr. Redlick had ever moved out of the house?
Yes, she did.
What did she say?
She stated that he did end up moving out around April 2018, and then he moved back into the home October 2018.
What, if anything, did she say about whether Mike moved back in or why Mike moved back in?
Yeah, she said that he did move back in, that they wanted to work on their marriage and to make things right with the children.
Did Ms. Redlick move from that topic to begin describing the day before the actual incident leading up to including Michael's death?
She just stated that they have been arguing. I know that she said that Mr. Redlick had found a text message in her phone with her and another guy texting and flirting. He had became really upset, so they have been arguing about that.
Did she say anything about that being physical in any way?
Just pushing and shoving. They were pushing and shoving one another.
So that would have been the day before?
Yes.
So let's move into what she told you about Friday, January 11th, 2019. What did Ms. Redlick say about how the day started?
That Mr. Redlick ended up leaving early for work. She ended up taking the kids to school. And throughout the day, like Mr. Redlick was texting her, asking her, what was she doing, asking her whereabouts.
Did she tell you whether or not she ended up leaving the house in the evening to go anywhere?
Yeah, she did. She ended up going to Sawyer's football game.
Was Michael there, according to Ms. Redlick?
Yes.
What did she say about the location of the children when everything occurred?
That one of the children was at a sleepover and one was at a friend's house. Sawyer was at a sleepover.
And as part of the reason that you were there, did you get information about those folks as part of all the follow-up you needed to do to make sure that they were safe to stay with?
Yes.
Did Ms. Redlick describe being home with Michael after the football game?
Yes.
What did she say happened when they first had returned home and were together?
That he ended up, he began drinking and they ended up arguing. Like he began drinking and they began arguing.
Did Ms. Redlick say whether or not she remained in the house or if she left the house around this time?
She did end up leaving. She said that she did leave. She ended up going to get her something to eat from McDonald's because she was hungry.
Did she return home?
Yes.
According to Ms. Redlick, who was Mr. Redlick at the house when she returned home?
Yeah.
What happened when Miss Redlick went inside, according to her during this interview?
She stated that she was eating her hamburger, and that Mr. Redlick ended up snatching the burger from her hand. And once he did that, he took a bite of it and spit it at her.
What happened next?
Yeah, after he took a bite of the sandwich, he spit it back at her, and then they began to argue.
Did she say whether or not it got physical at all at this point?
No, just pushing.
Okay. Did Miss Redlick share with you what, if anything, Mr. Redlick was saying at this point of the story she's telling?
He just kept referring to a movie that they had watched prior called, he just kept stating Sam Katie from a movie called Cape Fear that they had watched.
Okay, so she's telling you that he's quoting from a movie at this point?
Correct.
What did she do next in this sequence of events?
Don't remember.
Okay. Would looking at your report help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
And specifically looking at page 164. Your Honor, with permission from the court, can the witness look at page 164 of her report?
Yes,
And can I approach?
yes.
Just turn 164. And I'm indicating to this section. Could you read from this sentence all the way through? Just to yourself, please. Read that. Okay, you can close it back up. And Ms. Tucker, are you referring to that report you wrote sort of the same day that you spoke with Ms. Redlick?
Yes.
So what did she say happened next?
That he ended up pushing her to the ground,
And then did she get up?
Yes.
What did he do next, according to Ms. Redlick?
Pushed her head against the stove and began like covering her mouth with her face with his hands, yelling and screaming at her.
So she's described. Can you kind of describe what you understood her to be saying Mr. Redlick was doing with his hand?
Like just covering, like smushing his hands over her mouth.
Okay. She was not describing being choked.
Correct, she wasn't.
Did she say whether or not Mr. Redlick struck her at any point during the sequence of events?
No, just smudged his hand against her face, but like that.
Okay.
Like smudged it.
Like was like rubbing his fist on
Yeah,
her?
like rubbing. Mm-hmm.
You're face to face with Miss Redlick, right?
Yes.
Nothing covering her face?
Right.
Did you observe any injuries on her?
No.
So, what did Miss Redlick do to this in this moment where she says that his hand is sort of over her mouth and nose?
She just began like feeling around, like and looking for like a drawer, the closest drawer to her that had a knife inside.
As Miss Redlick is describing this moment or all of these moments, what's her demeanor?
I'm just very calm, very open, seem relaxed.
Are you having to ask many follow-up questions to get this information out?
No.
So she mentions that she's reaching around for a knife. Does she actually find a knife?
Yes.
What does she tell you that she does with the knife once she finds it?
She stated that she did have it, like she had it towards like in a stabbing motion, but she said that she wasn't going to do anything with it.
Did she describe Michael doing anything in response to her brandishing the knife at him?
Can you repeat it?
What did Michael do in response to her sort of making the stabbing motion, according to Miss Redlick?
Just kept yelling at her and then ended up taking the knife from her.
Did she share with you what she saw Michael do with the knife next?
She just stated that he ended up taking it out of her hand and then kind of making like a stabbing motion towards himself.
What did Miss Redlick say she did at this point that Mr. Redlick is making the stabbing motion toward himself?
Just backed away from him.
Did she stay in the room or go anywhere else?
She left and went to the bathroom.
Still calm as she's describing this?
Yeah.
What does she say happens now that she's in the bathroom?
She just went to the bathroom and she just shut the door and then sat on the floor and pulled herself up. And I remember her saying that he just started yelling, like coming to the bathroom door, yelling, Sam Katie.
She's describing that he's coming to the door and quoting a movie line again?
Mhm.
Yes?
Yes.
What happens next, according to Miss Redlick, after Mr. Redlick has been quoting from a movie?
She just appeared quiet.
Does she describe him ever coming in the bathroom?
No.
At any point in the story that she's telling you, does she say anything about taking a shower?
No.
Anything about washing up?
No.
What does she say happens next after things went quiet?
She just opened up the bathroom door and then went out. Like she just saw a trail of blood from the bathroom to the living room, and she just followed the trail of blood to the living room.
What did Miss Redlick say that she did when she followed that trail of blood?
That she just, she went to see if like he was breathing.
Did she do anything to try to help him?
Yes.
What did she say she did?
Tried to do like CPR.
Did something kind of stop her from doing CPR, according to Miss Redlick?
Like she just, well, no. Besides her just, getting sick, vomiting.
So help me understand that. She said that while she's giving CPR to Mr. Redlick, she starts vomiting.
Yeah.
Did Miss Redlick tell you why she did not call 911?
She just said she couldn't find her phone due to all the blood and stuff on the floor.
She didn't know where her phone was located?
Yes.
What happened next after she's vomited and has been unable to find her phone?
I mean, I don't remember.
How does she say sort of things end in this sequence of events?
That she couldn't find her phone. She still kept trying to like figure out, like started to clean up the blood off the floor, trying to figure out what was she gonna do.
Okay.
How did this all happen?
Well, that's the next morning. I want to talk about sort of how does the night wind down? Did she say where she goes to sleep that night?
She ended up like collapsing on the living room floor next to him and went to sleep.
So she wakes up the next morning, and you were just describing what she said she started doing the next morning. What'd she tell you she did the next morning?
Just started trying to clean up the blood off the floor, continue to try to clean it up off the floor.
Did Miss Redlick share with you some of the thoughts she was having in her head as she's now cleaning up the blood?
She just was stating that couldn't believe what had happened. She knew that children lost one parent. She didn't want them to lose both parents.
Did she share with you the decision that she made regarding her own life?
Yes.
What did she say?
That she wanted to end her own life.
Did she say why she wanted to end her own life?
She was just in shock. She stated she was just in shock. She didn't understand why Mr. Redlick would do that to himself.
What did she do next?
After that, she got a knife, tried to cut her wrist.
After she cut her wrist, did she tell you what she did?
She told me that she ended up calling 911.
Did Miss Redlick explain to you where in all of this she had located her phone?
Welcome back, Tim. Nice to see you back, sir. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Nunia. Let's go.
At any point, did Miss Redlick say that she had stabbed her husband?
No.
And did you understand her to be telling you that her husband had died from a self-inflicted stab wound?
Yes.
And it was because he had done that to himself that she was choosing to take her own life?
She just told me he did it to himself.
All right. I have no further questions for this witness.
At this time, the defense would ask the court to take judicial notice of Florida statutes 39.301.
So I'll take that.
So as a DCF investigator, it's important to conduct a proper child investigation. Is that right?
Correct.
And Florida statute 39.301 is the law that governs how to conduct a proper child investigation. Is that right? And the law is titled Initiation of Protective Investigations. Is that right?
Correct.
And you're familiar with this law?
Correct.
And this law lays out certain duties for child protective investigators.
Correct.
And you have to follow everything that Florida statutes 39.301 tells you to do.
Correct.
Because otherwise, if you do not follow it, then you're not following the law.
Correct.
Now, specifically, Florida statutes 39.301, subsection 9A2.
Objection, Your Honor. Can we approach?
Yes.
Why I objected to how Ms. Conlon was framing that question is the same reason why I objected to admitting the substance of the statute itself. The jury is, unless properly instructed, not going to know how to assess this line of questioning, because what Ms. Conlon is doing and what she argued at the bench, one of the arguments she made is that if Ms. Tucker violated this particular statute, they should disregard her testimony, and that's clearly not the law. So by starting to talk about statutes and saying a witness broke the law, and that's how it's going to come across when she cites 39031 sub 5 sub b, we're inviting the same confusion as actually introducing it. So what I think is the appropriate course of action is for us to come up with an instruction as it relates to this line of questioning, which informs the jury that they may consider any deviations from, 39301 as it relates to Ms. Tucker's credibility as a witness, but for no other purpose. Just so they know that they know how to deal with the fact that what's going to be put in their head is she broke the law, which isn't so much different than what they could imagine and what some of the other jury instructions tell them to do.
So I think that the special jury or the instructions that the court will give at the end, that the jury is supposed to determine credibility, and they themselves get to decide credibility. I think that is sufficient to cover. I don't think the jury needs a special jury instruction.
What part of that particular instruction relates to them following an administrative rule or a Florida statute? Let's not call it an administrative rule. What part of that instruction relates to the issue of whether they followed a particular statute? Meaning, when you look at, just like what you're saying, when you look at the instruction that talks about judging witness credibility, what part of that instruction talks about whether the witness followed a particular Florida statute that makes them more or less credible or more or less reliable?
So it does not specifically say anything about the law, and if a person does not follow the law, then that makes them more or less credible. However, I think it is common sense that if the jury hears these are the duties of a particular individual, whether it's a child protective investigator, let's say it could be a Bright House service person who has certain things according to their company policy, such as, when we arrive, this is a procedure, we stay outside, we come in with our equipment, or, there's certain things that are mandated by that particular company. So if let's say it was a slip and fall or whatever it could be, or some issue with that technician, one of the valid points for cross-examination is, hey, this is your company policy. You did not follow it, right? And so the jury would then be able to decide somebody who disregarded their company policy, how credible they are.
But would you agree then that a company policy versus Florida statute has different weight implications? It's different saying that someone did not follow a rule or a policy from Bright House versus someone not following a Florida statute. Isn't the weight of a statute versus a business policy, isn't that something that needs to be considered?
Just like, yes, I think it's worse. I think it's worse if somebody who is
to follow Bright House policy than it is to follow Florida statute?
No, I think it's worse that if somebody is where the Florida legislature for particular individual, such as a child protective investigator, says these are the rules that you need to follow, and this is the law. I think that's been more important, that the person follows what they were required statutorily versus, let's say, a company policy. But I'm using that analogy to explain why someone who's not, whether it's a company policy, whether it's dictated by the Florida statute, these are your job duties, these are what you are required to do, this is what you should do. Actually, it's not should, it is shall do. And they choose not to follow it. It's the same idea of attacking their credibility.
But assuming that she does, assuming that all of the steps in 39.301 were not followed, so that means she did not do the investigation the way she was supposed to do the investigation. Isn't that something that DCF would take care of? Isn't that something, so that would mean she had something in her personnel file. So essentially you're cross-examining her because, let's just assume that this is what happened, that it's brought out that she did not follow that particular statute. So she's written up, there's something in her personnel file. So she's basically being cross-examined or questioned about whether something was in her personnel file or whether she followed a particular rule or policy, if you will. And that's the basis of the cross-examination. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, what I'm trying to say is, for example, the law requires that you conduct face-to-face interviews with all subjects. That includes the children. Ms. Tucker, based on her motion to suppress hearing statements, she's going to say, I only laid eyes on the children. That's all. I asked her at the hearing, well, you understand what an interview requires, questions and answers. And she said, yes. So to me, that means she didn't conduct face-to-face interviews, because interviews requires questions and answers. And she did not do that with Jaden or Sawyer Redlick. The fact that the statute states that a child protective investigator shall inform the subject, which would be Ms. Redlick, that she has the right to have her interview audio or visually recorded, as well as the interview of child protective investigator with Sawyer or Jaden recorded. She was not informed of that. And we know that because it was office policy for them to not record any of the interviews. We know she did not follow, whether it's office policy, but most importantly, the law.
Okay, so what, if that's the point, then why not just ask, did you do the face-to-face interview? Did you do XYZ? Or did you, whatever the points are that you're trying to make on those 3 sections, can you just ask, why didn't you follow this law? Or you didn't do this, or you didn't do that?
So my plan is to go through the things that she should have done and did not do. But what's important to know is that the law says she was supposed to do it.
Okay, all right, Mr. Wiggins.
The difference between following a policy and following a law is significant. Deviation from a business policy makes you a bad employee. Deviation from the law could make you a criminal. And so there is this implication that Ms. Conlin is able to get across to this jury that this is a lawbreaker. She has broken Florida law. And what is the jury supposed to do with that? That she's listening to someone testify about committing a criminal act? And that is the danger of this question, is by saying you broke the law, the jury doesn't know how to handle it. And so we have to tell them how they should treat it. If Ms. Conlin isn't willing to temper this line of question and say, DCF policy or the requirements of DCF.
Thank you, enough for that.
To cite law, which is only done for one purpose, is to make her look like a lawbreaker. And the only time that you get to look like a lawbreaker on the witness stand is when you've been convicted of.
Jesus, that's boring. Hey, Nefasa. Hello, how are you, my darling? Hope you're well. Well, thank you for being a member for 5 months. Let's go. Let's go, Nefasa. We love you, Nefasa. Hope you're well, my darling.
A crime of dishonesty or a felony. This is a little bit of an in run around that. She broke the law as it relates to this DCF statute, and the jury gets to now see this lawbreaker testimony. If, as Ms. Conlin says, she's not asking them to disregard the entire testimony because of a deviation from this statute, but just to consider it for her credibility, I think that we address accurately how this jury is supposed to consider this line of questioning if she's committed to inserting this law into her questions, which is to say that, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, any issues related to this witness's deviation from, or I think we need to figure out a way to write it in a neutral way. Florida Statute 39301 is to be considered by you only as it relates to her credibility, but then it makes it sound like it's a felony or a crime of dishonesty. And that's the whole problem, is that's what Ms. Conlin is doing and wants to do in some sense with this questioning, and why it's so problematic.
There does need to be some sort of
Unfortunately, it's not the best live we got. The audio's terrible on this trial, but it's a filler. But it's always love to see you, though, no matter what.
that will explain to the jury that point, Mr. Wiggins. So where I see it, where we stand is this. If the form of the questions are going to remain the same, then the jury needs to be instructed that this witness is not
Being accused of committing a crime.
That's got to be it. Because the purpose of the line of questioning, just as you stated, Ms. Conlin, is so that you can argue later that Ms. Tucker broke the law. the implication across the board when you say someone broke the law is that they are a criminal of some sort. And she's not a criminal for not having followed 39.301, which is the parts that you want to talk about with regard to issues with audio and visual recordings and informing an individual about particular rights. It does not make her a criminal. She has not violated any criminal statute.
Your Honor, I think there also needs to be some language about whether there's a deviation from basically connecting it to the defendant's statement. Is that whether or not this has any bearing on? It's just. This is why this is so problematic, because it makes this issue. The jury is really truly going to struggle to know what to do with this line of questioning.
I'm allowing you to ask if you want to. You're not changing the form of your question. So the objection essentially is an objection to the form of the question. So I'm going to allow you to, I'm not limiting your cross-examination, but it needs to be put into context, because the way it's coming across now is that Ms. Tucker is a lawbreaker. And if she's a lawbreaker, then she's a criminal. And that implication is not correct. And the way you're asking the question is making it seem as if Ms. Tucker is a criminal. And that is wrong. She might not have followed a procedure in how to ask questions or how to conduct an interview, but that certainly does not make her a criminal. And so with the line of questioning that's going on right now, it is incumbent that the jury understand the context in which these questions are being asked. They're only being asked with regard to her credibility and not for the implication that it's clearly making, which is that she's a criminal. Any questions about that? Because you're sitting here, you're frowning, your eyebrows are your eyebrows are furrowed. So my understanding or my implication from reading your facial expressions is that you don't understand.
So if we were to flip the questions and give context, such as, did Ms. Tucker do these particular things? And then bring in, well, Florida statutes 39.
No. I won't allow that. Go ahead.
If I may, it's not my job to tell Ms. Conlon how to do her job, but a way to potentially conduct this line of questioning without opening the can of worms that the way she's approaching its opening is just phrase it as a DCF policy, that the DCF policy requires you to do this. And you get the same point across, that there was this policy that she didn't follow. And you can consider whether, what does that say about the overall investigation and whether, her testimony is credible. The only additional that the citing the statute and going to the statute makes is to make her look like she's a criminal.
Let me take a break.
Jesus. Right, let's skip this bit then.
It seems like it's. Can I have an opportunity to read the actual statement?
I'm just asking you, just based upon what you heard, what is your position on that?
That we would object to that instruction. I think the instruction that the court has come up with is appropriate.
I'm going to keep the instruction that I have written. I will allow you, Mr. Wiggins, to make your record if you'd like, and you can print that out and have that as a state exhibit or proposed state exhibit, but I'm not going to read that particular instruction. I'm going to keep the instruction that I have. The issue and for purposes of the record, here's where we are. There has to be a fine line that's walked here in the sense that it can't be instruction. The instruction can't be worded in such a way that it diminishes the attempt to attack her credibility, which is the purpose of the cross-examination, the way I see it. That's on one end. And on the other end is keeping the trier of fact from assuming that the witness is somehow criminal and has this civil statute. So the fine line there is the portions of that chapter are civil. They are not criminal in nature. They are already going to get an instruction regarding witness credibility and how they are to determine whether or not a witness's testimony is credible, whether or not it is reliable, whether they can believe part of the testimony or none of the testimony or all of the testimony. So they're already going to get an instruction regarding credibility of the witnesses and how to determine that. So I don't find that they need any further instruction with regard to how to judge this particular witness's credibility. That's my ruling, and I'd like for the jury to be brought in. There's no other issues regarding that. You can come up here, Ms. Conlon, and ask your questions. Where's Ms. Tucker? She needs to be brought back in, please.
Tucker, you would agree with me that interviews means there are questions asked. Is that right? And that an interview means that questions are answered. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in this case, the children, Sawyer and Jaden Redlick, were the subject of your investigation. And you did not interview Sawyer Redlick.
I spoke with them.
Did you ask Sawyer Redlick questions about what he knew?
No.
Did you ask any questions about Danielle as a mother?
Yes.
And when did you speak with Sawyer Redlick?
The Sawyer, I spoke with him. I believe, the next day I saw him the night of my investigation that I received it, but he was sleeping. So I believe I followed up with him the next morning as far as actually talking to him.
But you also didn't interview Jaden Redlick, did you?
What was that?
Did you interview Jaden Redlick?
I talked to her.
Weren't you at some point informed by your supervisor to just lay eyes on the children?
Right.
Okay. And so your supervisor told you that the only thing you were to do in regards to the children was just to lay eyes on them.
Right.
When you talked to Danielle, you don't remember if you told her that she had a right to an attorney. Is that right?
I don't remember.
And you would agree that one of the ways that may be used is that the information can be turned over to police. Is that right?
Correct.
And you did not tell Ms. Redlick that the information she provided could be turned over to police.
I don't remember.
Did you, if you don't remember, would taking a look at your deposition refresh your recollection? Is that a yes? it true that you did not tell Ms. Redlick that the information she provided could be turned over to police?
Right.
And you, in Florida statutes, chapter 39.301(5A3) states, upon commencing an investigation under this part, the child protective investigator shall inform any subject of the investigation of the following: the right to obtain his or her own attorney and ways that information provided by the subject be used. Is that your understanding of what the statute is?
Yes.
Now, you never record your investigations, do you?
Record them?
Yes. Okay. You never audio record any of your investigations, is that correct?
Correct.
You never video record any of your investigations, is that correct?
Correct.
You never record your interviews with the subjects of a child protective investigation, is that right?
Correct.
You did not tell Ms. Redlick that she had the right to have her interview with you audio recorded.
No, I gave her the pamphlet. No.
Okay. You did not tell Ms. Redlick she had the right to have her interview with you video recorded, did you?
I don't remember saying that.
Well, as a DCF investigator, you never have any of your interviews recorded.
Right.
In fact, for this particular interview, you didn't even bring office audio or video equipment, did you?
Correct.
And you understand that Florida statutes chapter 39.301, 5A, 6B requires that the investigator shall fully inform parents or legal custodians of their rights and options, including opportunities for audio or video recording of investigators' interviews with parents or legal custodians or children.
Correct.
Nothing further.
Mr. Wiggins.
Your Honor, I'd ask the court to read the instruction.
Ladies and gentlemen, the portions of Florida statute chapter 39.301 are civil in nature and not criminal.
Your Honor, permission to publish what's in evidence of States 56.
Yes.
Ms. Tucker, you were asked about the interviews that you did with Jaden and Sawyer's home.
Correct.
You interviewed Ms. Redlick,
Correct.
and that's the interview you told the jury about.
Correct.
And that's where she said all the things you just testified to.
Correct.
And that's where you gave her this pamphlet. Yes.
Correct.
And she had an opportunity to review that pamphlet before you started questioning her.
Objection leading.
Sustained. Rephrase your question.
Did she have an opportunity to review that pamphlet before you questioned her?
Yes.
Could you please read the first 2 bullet points of the pamphlet that Ms. Redlick had an opportunity to review?
I like to try different things, Mexi. Mexi, I wasn't sure if you were here or on that Suzanne Caper case. I've never heard of it, but I will look into it. I will look into it though. Because it's you, I'll look into it.
Before your questioning began.
You may have a lawyer represent you at any point during the investigation. If you choose to delay your interview with the investigator in order to be represented by a lawyer, the investigator will continue to gather information from other persons, including family members. You may video or audio tape your interview with a protective investigator using your own equipment if the recording equipment is immediately available.
I have no further questions.
Ms. Tucker, you may step down. Your next witness, state.
Your Honor, at this time, the state calls Frederick Copeland.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, specifically over the weekend of January 11th and 12th, were you working on those dates?
Yes.
And during that time, did you have the opportunity to come in contact with someone later known to you as Danielle Redlick?
Yes, ma'am.
I know it's been a while, but do you think if you saw Ms. Redlick, you'd be able to recognize her?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you take a moment and look around the courtroom and see if you see Ms. Redlick? Could you describe a piece of clothing she's wearing?
Gray suit, kind of like a
shirt.
Thank you. Now, when you first came in contact with Miss Redlick, could you describe the floor in which she was housed?
But when I came in that morning, they had her already, she must have came in the middle of the night from that night to the morning. And so when I came in at 7, they already had her in a seclusion room, but the door was propped open, but she was in there resting.
Okay. And in this particular housing area, could you describe it? Is it a locked area, or could you describe where?
The unit?
In the unit, yes.
The unit, she was on the Palms unit. The whole facilities are locked down. So you need a key pass to go through from building to building. The room that she was in usually could be locked if a patient is taking off their clothing, being aggressive. They had her in there resting. I don't know why, but the door was open. It was propped open.
Now, with Miss Redlick, could you describe your particular duties and responsibilities in regards to Miss Redlick?
Well, she was placed on a 1-to-1. It's pretty much to be arm's length of her, making sure she's not harm to herself, any harm to no one else, and just keep her eyes and visual contact with her on all times.
So how long did you have an opportunity to actually watch Miss Redlick?
For 2 days.
2 days.
So 16-hour shifts.
Okay, so 2 days, so for the course of 2 days and 2 16-hour shifts.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so during the course of this time, did you have an opportunity to have a conversation with Miss Redlick?
Yes, briefly, yes.
And did Miss Redlick tell you what happened in the house the evening before she came to the institute, to the Central Florida Behavioral Health that night?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did she tell you what happened in the house that evening?
Well, she was taking a shower, and her husband came into the shower with a phone. They began to argue with each other. She told him to leave out of the bathroom. They continued to have a back and forth.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there. Okay, so you said that there was an argument. Did she indicate, was it a verbal argument?
Yes,
Okay, and then you indicated that she indicated for him to get out, and then there was another, you said back and forth. Was that also another verbal argument, correct? Okay, so then after that verbal argument, what happened?
I don't know how he ended up on the outside of the bathroom. She stayed in the bathroom for some time, she said.
Okay, so she stayed in the bathroom for a duration, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and she didn't tell you how long she stayed in the bathroom?
I don't know precisely what time. I can't.
Okay, and then what did the defendant tell you happened next?
He said when she opened the door, he was laying there.
So when she opened the door, he was laying right there at the bathroom door?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and laying how? Was he alive? What was his condition? What was his condition?
Wasn't alive.
So he was dead?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so she opens the bathroom door and he is laying right there dead, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, did she indicate to you that at any point in time prior to this that he had made any threats to harm her?
No, ma'am.
Did she tell you that she had ever seen him with a knife?
No.
Did she tell you that he had actually ever hit her that evening?
No, ma'am.
Did she say that she had a knife anytime that evening?
No, ma'am.
Did she tell you that she had actually stabbed him at any point that evening?
No, ma'am.
So did she tell you how she thought he ended up dead on the floor?
She did say he must have stabbed himself.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Parnell?
Good morning, Mr. Cope. The unit that we're dealing with, that is the high acute psych unit at your hospital, right?
Correct.
This is a lockdown facility, as you explained. That means to leave the facility, they would have to go through a bunch. So she can't do that.
Correct.
She's not the one that determines when she gets to leave either. She can't just say, I'm out, can y'all open the door for me?
Correct. She can't say that.
Okay, so she's there because of the harm that she did to herself.
Correct.
And this is a facility for people in similar situations. High acute, potentially, in the Baker Act situation, potentially danger to themselves, correct?
On that unit or no hospital?
Where she was.
That unit, there's not always Baker Act. It could be people who volunteer status to come in as well.
Yeah, but she was not voluntary.
Correct.
She didn't check herself in. She wasn't the one that determined to check herself out. You had said that sometimes the specific rooms can be locked. So, like a hotel, I guess there's a common area.
Yes, sir.
There's a specific room.
The area.
The area, okay, that she has access to. And if people need to be locked in their specific rooms due to taking off their clothes, being aggressive, things like that, then that can be done. I believe was your testimony on direct.
They can be put in a seclusion. Like they become aggressive, threat to someone, or to stab another patient or to themselves, or they're disrobing themselves.
we'll put them in a seclusion room to pretty much isolate because we don't want them to be taken advantage of, just rubbing themselves around other patients.
Sure. Nothing like that happened with Ms. Redlick.
No,
She was not aggressive to yourself or to other patients
sir.
or to anybody. At some point, she did an interview with a lady from DCF while you were supervising her.
Yes, sir.
That interview was not done in a room.
No.
It was done in a doctor's office in another part of the hospital.
Yes, sir.
And to get there, you had to escort Ms. Redlick through multiple sets of locked doors to get to that room.
2 doors.
Okay, so 2 doors to get to the room. So image-wise, what we're looking at is you walking with Ms. Redlick through all these places to get to the room where the doctor can go. That's stop, go through a locked door.
Yes, sir.
Stop, go through a locked door,
Yes,
and
sir.
go into the room.
Yes, sir.
You're walking right beside her with the whole thing, escorting her.
Yes, sir.
And when she's doing the interview with the DCF lady, you're at the door to the room.
I'm at the door, but I'm not inside the room. I was in the hallway.
So door, you're in like the threshold right by it.
Yes. So like if this was the room, I was standing outside in the hallway by the door.
Okay. That interview, 10 minutes tops.
I can't remember exactly.
Not a very long interview.
Not long at all.
When you saw Ms. Redlick, that was January, what, 12th and 13th of 2019, correct?
I believe so. I can't remember
Does
exactly.
that sound about right? January?
Yes, I'm about right.
You didn't document anything that she said to you. You didn't write it down in real time.
I mean, what we do is we have while you're on the one-to-one, there's you do checks on as well and hourly inquiries as well.
From the doctor.
For the doctor, yes. So if the patient is saying something, but I can't remember what I documented from that long ago.
Okay. So that would be symptoms, things like that you're
Yes,
documenting.
I wouldn't say something that she verbally told me. I would say like if she's asking me a question or certain things like that.
Patient wanted to know about treatment options. Patient wanted to know if she can do this. Things that you relate to the doctor for the purposes of treatment.
Yes, or how the patient is acting. Patient is getting up out of the room. Patient showered during this hour span. Patient did eat. Patient is asking a question about a phone number, about a cell phone.
Potential health related things,
Yes.
symptoms, stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
But not biographical stuff, not narratives of things. You're not recording anything that she's saying to you.
No.
You would never do that in this situation. You don't recall the DCF lady having any cameras, any recording devices, anything like that?
I know, so I don't recall that. No, sir.
You do remember when you spoke to Ms. Redlick that she talked about being in the bathroom
Yes, sir.
from the day that her husband had died.
Yes, sir.
You remember that she had told you that she had locked herself in the bathroom and closed herself in the bathroom after their altercation.
Yes, sir.
And that when she had opened the door, that's when she located the body.
Yes, sir.
And your testimony today is that she opened the door and just found the body laying there on the ground.
I wouldn't say exactly right there. I know what I'm saying is when she came out of the bathroom, she discovered. I don't know how many steps or how far she went to see the body. I can't tell you that.
Okay, so you don't remember what she said about where the body was. It's been over 3 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So she comes out of the bathroom and she finds the body. And since it's not documented, since it's not recorded, now today, 3.5 years later, you're not sure if she takes a walk, finds the body somewhere else in the home, or if it's in the bathroom, in the bedroom. You just remember she found the body after walking out of the bathroom where she had sequestered herself away from her husband.
Correct.
She told you she was scared after finding him, right?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained. Directed to disregard the last question and answer, Mr.
Question,
Cornell.
Ms. Turner?
Mhm.
About her personal life, things that do not relate to anything that needs to go to the doctor.
No, sir.
Okay, nothing further, Judge.
Ms. Garcia, any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
I don't know. I missed it.
So that evening, do you recall whether or not the defendant indicated if Michael was banging on the bathroom door at all?
Objection, scope of cross.
Sustained.
So let's talk about where the defendant indicated the body was located. So defense talked to you about your memory about where that was. So during the conversation that the defendant had with you, could you describe to the jury what she told you about what she saw when she opened that door?
She said when she opened the door, she saw him laying there. But again, I can't say how many, did she walk down the hallway or when she's opened the door, she said she saw him laying there.
Okay, so she opened the bathroom door and she saw him laying there. That's what you remember, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Copeland, you may step down. Thank you very much. State your next witness.
Okay, I'll try and catch this one now.
Johanna Henna.
Joanna Henna. Sorry, I was having dinner, the last witness. So state witness on the stand. Joanna Henna. Then we'll just see who she is. You and me were meant to be walking free in harmony. One fine day.
All right, ma'am, would you please state your name for the record, spell your first and last name, please?
It's Joanna Henna. It's spelled Joanna, and last name is Heina.
And could you please tell the jury where you're currently employed?
I'm employed at Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Orlando Regional Operations Center. I'm a crime lab analyst supervisor in biology DNA section. Prior to my last year promotion, I was a crime lab analyst in biology DNA section.
And how long have you been employed at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
Since November of 2009.
What is your educational background that qualifies you to work at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
I have 2 bachelor degrees. One is in molecular biology and microbiology, and the other one is in biotechnology.
Now, you said, what are your principal duties and responsibilities as a crime analyst supervisor within the biology DNA section?
As a supervisor right now, I supervise a group of senior crime lab analysts, and also forensic technologists, just ensuring the smooth operation of the biology DNA section.
Okay, and you indicated that you were just promoted. When were you promoted?
I was promoted in July of last year, 2021.
Okay, so I'd actually like to focus prior to your promotion in July of 2021. So you said that you were a crime lab analyst prior to your promotion, is that correct?
That is correct.
And can you please tell the jury what your duties and responsibilities were as a crime lab analyst?
As a crime lab analyst, my job was to examine forensic evidence for presence of bodily fluids such as blood, semen, saliva, with the goal to obtain DNA profile from unknown samples. I then compare them to known standards in the case, issued calculate statistics, issued report, and testify in court if necessary.
Okay. And for the remainder of your testimony, I'm going to be talking specifically about your qualifications and your training prior to your promotion, okay? Okay. So did you receive any specialized training to prepare you for your duties as a forensic serologist with DNA and as a DNA analyst with the FDLE?
Yes, I underwent about 2-year program for crime lab analyst in biology DNA section training program.
And you indicated that you do perform DNA testing. How long have you conducted your DNA testing?
I was promoted in 2013, started working independently, finished my training in 2015, and then I was conducting independent casework until my promotion, which was July of last year. So approximately a little over 6 years.
And how many times have you actually conducted DNA analysis?
On average, I would probably say I process about 800 to over 1,000 samples a year. So I want to say about between 6,000 and 7,000 samples, maybe.
And as a DNA analyst at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, do you undergo any proficiency testing?
Yes, every analyst in biology DNA section, the requirements that will take proficiency testing twice a year. So it's biannually, every 6 months.
Well, could you tell the jury what is a proficiency test?
Proficiency test is a set of samples that is purchased for me from outside company. I would work them just like I would any other casework samples. Write up my results. They are going to be submitted to that company, and then the memo is issued whether I pass or failed.
And have you ever failed any of your proficiency testing?
No, I have not.
Now, you indicated that you would testify sometimes as in the courts here in Florida. Have you ever testified as an expert before?
Yes, several times.
And have you ever testified as an expert within the field of forensic serology with the expertise in STR DNA testing?
Yes.
And approximately how many times?
I want to say approximately 15 times.
So at this point in time, I'm going to start asking you questions specifically within your field of expertise within the field of DNA. Could you please describe to the jury and tell the jury what is DNA?
DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Essentially, a lot of times it is referred to as genetic blueprint of life, and that is because it has information for hair, eye color, the fact that we have 2 hands and 5 fingers in each. But it also contains all the information about every process that is going on within our bodies, like how we digest meals we just ate. At the point of conception, you get half of your DNA from a mother and half from a father. This type of unique combination is what makes you different than anybody else on the planet, except for identical twins, which have the same DNA makeup. DNA in my saliva, my blood, my skin is going to be the same. It will stay the same and remain the same for the course of my life. This property of DNA and the fact that if stored correctly, it can be tested for many years to come, makes the DNA such a valid and important forensic identification tool.
And what types of DNA testing are done within your laboratory?
We perform what's called STR DNA analysis.
And what type of procedure do you use with the STR DNA analysis?
There's STR stands for short tandem repeats. There are small regions of DNA that are repeated back to back over and over again. We all have them, but we are different in the number of repeat units between the individuals. So if I say, let's say that in someone's DNA profile is 710 at a particular location, what it means is that that individual received or inherited 7 repeat units from one parent and 10 repeat units from another parent. And I look at those areas, I look at 21 different areas on DNA to differentiate between the individuals. There is generally 4 different steps of DNA analysis. So after I examine the evidence, I would then collect samples, put them in sterile tubes, and then they undergo into 4 different steps of DNA analysis. In step 1.
Well, actually, before we go into the different steps, let me go back for just a moment. So could you describe and tell the jury a little bit between the difference between a single source and a mixed profile with the DNA?
Single source profile is the profile that comes from one individual. And so information is at all location that I look at gives me indication that it's only one person that is contributed to that sample. Mixture is by definition more than one individual would contribute to that sample.
And so when you're doing your analysis, do you, in essence, are you comparing pretty much known DNA with unknown DNA?
The basis of my work is to compare unknown profiles that I obtained from forensic evidence to known profiles, and if there is a match or inclusion.
You are the only participant.
And if there is any match or inclusion for that person to that profile, I will then issue statistics and write my report.
Okay, so let's talk about, because you mentioned that there are different steps. So let's talk about and describe to the jury the 4 different steps that you use in going about the DNA process in your analysis.
So like I was saying earlier, when I collect the sample from forensic evidence, I place it into a sterile tube, and then it undergoes 4 different steps of DNA analysis. In the first step called quantitation, I want to find out in the first step called extraction, I want to know, I want to add chemicals and heat to open up the cells and get the DNA into the solution, liquid solution. Then it goes into the second step, which is called quantitation. I want to know how much of a sample I have, how much of a DNA I have in a sample. Then it goes into process called amplification, where in the process called polymerase chain reaction, PCR, I will make millions and millions of copies of the sample in the tube. It is essentially the same thing that the human body will do in nature, but it's done in the tube. In the last step called capillary electrophoresis, the DNA under electric current passes through the window.
Right. How's this? How's this? I've just turned it down to 35. My mic volume. No, it's gone back up. No, it's gone back up. It goes back up on its own. Yeah, No, because now my mic's gone. I know, guys. I know. I know. Dirk, hi, Dirk. Fuck me. This is why I don't like to fiddle with stuff in the middle of streams because now it's all gone. Right. Can you hear me now? Can anybody hear me now? Anybody hear me? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Are you able to hear me? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Fuck for that. Right. Let's see how this is then. Right, and from now on, I'm not playing about with it because no games and stuff. I don't like. I just can't because
0500728.
Yes.
And did you do an analysis of evidence under that particular case number?
Yes, I did.
Now, could you please describe to the jury, how do you receive evidence in order to do an analysis? Do you get one big, huge lump, all evidence all at once, or do you receive small bits of evidence?
That really depends. It's on the agency that is submitting the evidence to decide how they want to submit the evidence, whether it comes in the same time or within the course of their investigation, they bring additional submissions to us.
So it's possible to get smaller submissions over the course of time?
Yes, quite often we get smaller submissions or a few submissions that we write and work at the same time. And then there's times when we get submissions later after the first or second event report was released.
So in this particular case, were you ever given any known standards to compare any evidence against?
Yes, I have received 2 standards in this case.
And who were those standards of?
I have received standards from Danielle Redlick, and I also received a bloodstain card from Michael Redlick.
Permission to approach the witness?
Yes, ma'am.
It's going to be what's already been is 42 and 11. So these are admitted as states 42 and states 11. So let's start off with 42.
Okay.
Okay. Is this the, and do you recognize what's already been admitted as 42?
Yes, I recognize this evidence as something that was worked by me, and that every single piece of evidence that comes to FDLE will get the CLO electronic barcode that states that has case ID for it, FDLE unique case ID number. It has the exhibit number on it. When I work on every evidence, it is my job to make sure that it is correct with the notes and what evidence was sent to me and submitted. When I opened that evidence and when I actually analyze the evidence, I then write the FDA case number on it, date when I examined it. I put the item number on it as well as my initials. When I'm done with the evidence, then I would paste my initials on a sealed token.
And could you tell the jury what 42 was?
So these are buccal swabs from Danielle Redlick.
And then looking at admitted states 11, could you tell the jury what that was that you received?
This is a DNA card from Michael Redlick.
And so those were the two standards that you received and worked off of in this particular case?
Correct.
And so to make sure that I understand the procedure that you use, so you use the DNA obtained from those two standards, or the DNA obtained from those two standards, and you compare it against all the rest of the evidence that you received in this case. Is that right?
So that is correct. I look at the unknown results that I obtained, and then I compare the known standards to see if there is match or inclusion or exclusion.
And did you receive additional evidence in this case in order to compare against those two standards?
Yes, I have.
Now let's go through that additional evidence item by item and chat with the jury. Let's first talk about, I'm going to reference your item number 19 and 25. Permission to approach?
Yes.
Showing what's been entered as states 26 and 20. So I'm handing the witness states 26 and states 20. Were these two items that you received and analyzed?
Yes. This one is a gauze swab that I've examined that was represented to me as being from gauze swab. Is represented to me as being from Danielle Redlick. And this one is the liquid sample.
The liquid sample, okay. Permission to publish 30 in evidence as states 22 composite?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's talk first about the gauze, which was your item number 19. Could you tell the jury whether or not there was a presence of blood found?
When I looked at the gauze, if I remember correctly, it looked like red-brown staining. It was received to me in a plastic vial tube. It had still a lot of liquid inside on the gauze, and as well as the plastic tube and container that it was received in. It had red-brown staining, which is indicative of possibility of presence of blood. So what I did is I first opened it up, put it on a filter paper. It was still so wet that there was liquid coming out of it, which later on went onto the filter paper. I then did the what we called the chemical indication test for presence of blood, and that was positive.
Okay, and can you, when you, so you indicated that the gauze came wet. Was there any type of smell that came with the gauze? Do you remember?
Yes, when I opened the tube or the vial, it smelled like a somewhat putrefied smell. I mean, almost like a decay smell.
Now, you said that you found the presence for blood. Could you get an actual sample from the gauze?
So what I did is I dried the gauze and then collected sample from it. I took it through a DNA analysis process, and there was not sufficient amount of DNA found in that second step called quantitation. That is why there was no additional work being done on this sample. There was just not insufficient amount of DNA in it, and the process stopped right there.
So there's an insufficient amount of DNA found. Is this typical when you find the presence of blood?
Not necessarily. You know, expectation is that if you find if the sample does give indication of presence of blood, you would expect as an analyst that you will get the DNA results from it. Unfortunately, the sample came in, it was wet in a stored tight container, a sealed container. And I think with the smell that I initially observed, I could determine that there was nothing unintuitive of not obtaining DNA profile from it because of the possibility of the degradation.
So let's move on now to the liquid sample. Did you also test which was states 26, did you also test the liquid sample for the presence of blood?
Yes, I received the liquid tube with the liquid sample. I placed the sterile cotton tip swab to collect sample from it. I then did the same chemical indication tests for the presence of blood. It was positive, and just like the sample from the gauze, there was insufficient amount of DNA found in the sample, and the process stopped right there.
So even though, once again, there's the presence of blood, there wasn't enough DNA in it to get a sample, is that correct?
One of the properties of DNA is that if stored correctly, which means in dry conditions, away from heat, away from sunlight, when there is no bacterial degradation going on, moisture is one of the big possibility that might actually add into a degradation of the sample. And so that could have been a factor in this case.
So mixing either water or something else could deplete the sample, is that correct?
It could possibly damage the cellular DNA in the sample.
So let's move on to another item in which you received your item 23. Could you tell the jury what item 23 was?
It was a Nike T-shirt.
Commissioner Porchetta?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm hearing the witness wasn't entered as states 24. Is this the Nike T-shirt that you received?
Yes, it is, and it does have the case number that I transcribed, the date when I examined this evidence, the item number, and my initial, as well as the initials on the sealed bag.
Okay. So this is the shirt that you did the analysis on, correct?
Correct.
So let's talk about this Nike T-shirt. Could you describe to the jury what the T-shirt was like when you received it?
The T-shirt was received inside out. It appeared that it had a lot of red-brown stains throughout. It was almost stiff to a touch. It was received, I believe, in two brown papers and kind of folded, but it was stiff to the point that I had a hard time actually unfolding it initially.
And did you test to see if there was any presence for blood on this?
Yes, I actually looked at various stains. So I've selected a lot of different stains from the shirt, from various locations on the shirt, and tested those stains for indications of the presence of blood, and they were all positive. I also took a sample from what appeared to be a cut on the left shoulder. I swabbed that area inside and outside and tested that. That was also positive for indications of the presence of blood.
So I'm going to stop here. You said you tested the cut. Once again, this is already entered as states 22 composite. So is this the area where you tested the cut in the T-shirt?
I have a little bit different picture of it, but I believe so.
And you tested so the inside here where the cut was?
Yeah, so I swabbed the areas on the outside of the shirt, around the cut, and also on the inside.
And you said that gave the presence for blood, is that correct?
Yes, it did.
Now, you also mentioned that you took multiple stains and tested multiple different stains on this particular Nike T-shirt. Is that correct?
Yes, I selected a total of 6 different stains. I named them stain A through F, and I tested all of those for indications of the presence of blood.
Okay. So let's go through all of the different stains. Did you get a profile for all of the stains?
Yes, I have.
And was it a single profile?
So I tested, like I said, stains A through F and the shirt cut, and the same complete DNA profile consistent with male individual was obtained from all these samples.
Okay. And then did you compare do a comparison with the two standards in this particular case?
Yes, so that DNA profile was matched profile of Michael Redlick.
And did you, and I know we talked about the likelihood ratio, were you able to determine a likelihood ratio with these particular stains, stains A through F, and the additional swab that you took from the cut in the t-shirt?
Yeah, the likelihood ratio for that finding is that the observed DNA profile is greater than 700 billion times more likely that the sample originated from Michael Redlick as opposed to unrelated individual.
So moving on to your item 38, could you tell the jury what item 38 that you received in this case?
It was sent as swab represented to me as from the floor evidence marker number 20.
And at this time, for demonstrative purposes, the data is showing for composite BR.
Yes, ma'am.
State 7. Showing the witness was entered as state 7. Do you recognize state 7?
Yeah, by the same 4 different pieces of information that I talked about initially, and also my sealed initials on the sealed of the tape.
And is this the sample that we've been chatting about, the sample from the floor?
Yeah, this is swabbed from the floor at marker 20.
So let's chat about this item. Did you test to see if there's any presence of blood?
Yes, I did. I did exactly the same procedure as I've done on the shirt, tested it for a presence, possible indications of a presence of blood, and it was positive.
And then what did you do next in this particular?
The sample went through just the same, same extraction and all DNA analysis process as the previous samples, and I obtained complete DNA profile from it that was consistent with male individual.
Okay. And were you able to determine whether or not, and did you compare it to the standard of Michael Redlick?
Yeah, this profile matched Michael Redlick.
Okay. And were you able to determine a likelihood ratio to Mr. Redlick?
Yes, the same as observed. The observed DNA profile is greater than 700 billion times more likely that the sample originated from Michael Redlick as opposed to unrelated individual.
Okay. So now let's move on to another item in which you received item 14, which is, could you tell the jury what item 14 is?
It was a long black sleeve shirt represented as being from Danielle Redlick.
Commissioner Approach?
Yes, ma'am.
Joint counsel. Okay, the witness was entered as C19. Do you recognize C19?
Yes, I do. By the same 4 pieces of information. This is the long sleeve shirt that is indicated to be from Danielle Redlick.
And this is the second black shirt that you did the analysis on?
Correct.
Okay. So describe the jury when you started this examination. How did you start this examination?
Well, when I looked at the shirt, I have observed also, several different areas of red-brown staining, possible blood staining, and
well, before we get into the staining, at any point in time, did you notice any hairs on the shirt?
Yes, I found approximately 14 hairs, apparent hairs, that I placed into a petri dish and placed back to original container.
Okay. Can you tell the jury why? Actually, let me ask you this: did you analyze the hairs?
No, I did not.
Can you tell the jury why you did not analyze the hairs?
Throughout the day, everyone sheds so much hair. I think, individuals shed approximately 100 hairs a day. In the instances or incidents when there's people that are residing together and involved in the incidents, looking at hairs would be not really something that I would be doing first because of the fact that they could be transferred from one individual to another very easily.
So then let's go to the shirt itself. Did you look and analyze, once again, as you did with the other shirt, did you analyze multiple different stains on this shirt?
Yes, I selected stains A through E on this shirt.
Okay, so let's talk about stain A, B, C, D, and E first, okay? So for stain A, B, C, D, and E, was there a presence of blood?
Yes, I did the color change test and it was positive, indicating the possible presence of blood.
And were you able to obtain a profile?
I did. It was a complete DNA profile that was consistent with male individual, and that profile matched Michael Redlick.
And could you determine a likelihood ratio?
Yes, the observed DNA profile is greater than 700 billion times more likely that the sample originated from Michael Redlick as opposed to unrelated individual.
Now, was there an additional stain that you tested, stain F?
Yes, I did.
And could you please tell the jury what you found at stain F?
This result was demonstrated presence of a mixture of two individuals with consistent with at least one male individual. With at least one male individual.
Okay. And so you said it was a mixture, and this is the first time that we've discussed about mixtures. And I know it was before lunch, but could you tell the jury when you see a mixture, what are we expecting to see in the mixture?
Well, mixture, like I said earlier, it is by definition more than one individual is donating their DNA into that sample. So if you remember, when the single source profile, you expect expectations that you might possibly see two DNA types at each location that you inherited from either mom or your dad. Mixtures would have more of those repeat units, indicating that there is more individuals present.
Okay, so let's talk about the mixture on stain F. You said that it was consistent with at least one male profile, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Were you able to, did you then compare the standards that you had for both Michael and Danielle to this mixture?
Yes, so since the shirt was represented to me as being from Danielle Redlick, I expected that Danielle Redlick's DNA would be on it. For the items that are intimate to our bodies, such as clothing that we wear, or if you collected swab from my hand, for instance, the expectation would be that my DNA would be present, in that sample. So for that reason, I treated Danielle Redlick as expected donor to that sample. And so I used that information to put it in the software to later use that puzzle piece known already to the sample to determine what is the best fit of the profiles in additional contributors to that profile.
So just because an individual, and let's talk about that for just a second. So just because an individual, you would expect to see an individual's DNA on something, that individual's DNA might not be on it. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Just because I expect, that my DNA to be on my shirt depends on how much that shirt is in the contact with my body. I might not be able to transfer enough of my DNA on it.
In this particular case, was Danielle's DNA actually on this stain and in the stain?
Looking at the my graphical representation, I was able to determine that Danielle Redlick's DNA was actually present in that sample.
And were you able to come up with a likelihood ratio in this mixture?
Yes. So Michael Redlick was included in this mixture, and the observed mixed DNA profile is greater than 700 billion times more likely to occur if the sample originated from Danielle Redlick and Michael Redlick than from Danielle Redlick and unrelated individual.
Okay. So moving on, let's talk about item 15. Can you tell the jury what was item 15 that you analyzed?
It was a plaid pants represented as being from Danielle Redlick.
For the record, showing the jury was already been entered as states 22. Yes, show counsel 27. Yes. 27. Could you look at what's been entered as 27? States 27.
Yes, those are the plaid pants that that were represented to me as being from Danielle Redlick.
Okay, and those are the pants that you did the analysis on?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so in this particular case, I'm actually, you're on permission to publish these to the jury.
Yes.
witnesses sit down and show the jury, Judge?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you want to pull them out, I'm going to hold them. So you can step down and show the jury this time.
Will she be testifying at all from that position, Ms. Garcia?
No, you're.
Oh, okay.
I'm just gonna-
And if you could stand toward the middle so everyone can see it. There you go.
I'm sorry, Judge, I'm actually going to ask you a question.
Okay, that's fine. Just stand there in the middle so everyone can see it.
So can you tell the jury, because we see here, I have some marks on the pants, so remove the pants, you can point to the jury. Can you tell the jury what these marks are on the pants?
So when I look at the pieces of evidence like that, I won't select the same. And so
I'm sorry, ma'am?
I won't select the same when I look at the pieces of evidence like that. And so the stains that I select, I'll put in my marking environment, just for later on future referencing. So this is stain A, this is stain B, that was part of obviously a lot larger area. So this would have been my sample from this part of the leg. And then I also looked at this stain C because it is away from all the other evidence, all the other outstanding here. So just because there's more than one individual possibly involved in this incident, honestly, I think the representation of what could be a mission of the DNA from the different individuals. So I determined that this one was a little bit different. This would have been the same as representing this stain, and also the fact that this one was just randomly in the back, not other associated sample. Thank you, Mary.
So,
Thank you. So now that the jury's seen where you did the testing, let's talk about the individual stains. Let's start off with stain A. Did you determine that there was a presence of blood?
Yes, so there was a chemical indications of the presence of a blood. It was a positive indication.
And were you able to get a profile from stain A?
Yeah, the profile resulted in determination of a mixture of two individuals with at least one male individual in it.
Okay. And then since it was a mixture, did you compare it to both the standard of Danielle and Michael?
Well, so Danielle Redlick, I've used again as an expected donor to that sample, but I did compare Michael Redlick's DNA known standards to it, and he was included as a possible contributor to that sample, to that mixture.
And is this one where you actually found, even though you expected Danielle's DNA to be on the sample, did you actually find Danielle's DNA to be on the
I
sample?
observed Daniel's Redlick DNA to be part of that mixture.
And did you determine a likelihood ratio for this particular mixture on stain A?
Yeah, the observed mixed DNA profile is greater than 700 billion times more likely to occur if the sample originated from Danielle Redlick and Michael Redlick than from Danielle Redlick and unrelated individual.
Moving on to stain B, did you obtain a complete profile?
Yes, I did. So stain B and C, as a matter of fact, I obtained the same DNA profile.
Okay. So was there the presence of blood?
Yes, it was. It was positive for indications of a presence of blood.
And a complete profile indicating that there was not a mixture. Is that correct?
Single source profile, just coming from one individual.
And who did you determine that individual was?
It matched Michael Redlick.
And did you determine a likelihood ratio?
Yes, the observed DNA profile was greater than 700 billion times more likely if the sample originated from Michael Redlick than from unrelated individual.
Moving on to item number 17. Can you tell the jury what item number 17 that you analyzed?
It was swabbed from a closet.
And showing the jury for demonstrative purposes was marked as BR.
able to, with confidence, figure out how many people are contributing to that sample. In this case, I was able to observe that Michael Redlick's profile in it, but the information that was very limited, that was foreign to him, I just could not determine whether it comes from one, two, or few individuals, and therefore I could not do any of the analysis on it.
So let's talk about the fingernail clippings from the left hand. What, if anything, could you determine from that analysis?
I could not observe any additional foreign DNA to Michael Redlick.
So Michael Redlick's DNA was only found on the left-hand fingernails.
Correct.
So turning to the swabs, at any point in time, did you ever analyze the swabs from Michael Redlick?
I examined
swabs from his hands.
From hands, correct.
Permission to approach?
Yes, ma'am.
Any witness was entered as state swab. You recognize swab? Yes.
Yes, it's the same in pieces of information, and I wrote on it 19.1 and 19.2 because I broke it down into hand swabs from right hand and left hand.
And these are the swabs that you analyzed from Michael's hands?
Yep.
So once again, since you broke it down into his left hand and his right hand, let's go with the right hand first. What did your analysis on the swabs from Michael's right hand indicate?
So I tested them for indications of a presence of a blood, and it was positive. And there was no STR DNA results foreign to Michael Redlick on sample 19.1 from right hand.
So Michael's DNA was the only one on the swabs from the right hand?
Correct.
So let's go for the left hand. What did you determine from the swabs taken from Michael's left hand?
I got the same DNA, foreign DNA profile as I did on sample 19.1. So the results were the same as the right hand.
So no foreign DNA was found on the swabs taken from Michael's left hand. Is that correct?
Correct.
So moving on, did you analyze any other evidence in this case?
I received 2 additional swabs from, one was from evidence marker 21, the other one's from evidence marker 22.
I'm sure the jury for demonstrative purposes, ER. Permission for adjournment?
Yes, ma'am.
And the witness was been marked for, sorry, what's been entered as states 8. Do you recognize 8?
Yeah, it is a swab from the handle, evidence marker 21.
And is this the swab that you did your analysis on?
Yes, I did. The same evidence seals,
Okay,
initials.
thank you. So let's talk about your analysis from states 8. Did you determine whether or not there was a presence of blood from this swab?
Yes, this swab also gave chemical indications of the presence of blood.
And were you able to get a DNA profile?
Yeah, it was a complete DNA profile that was consistent with a male individual, and it matched Michael Redlick.
Finally, can you tell us what the likelihood ratio is, please?
The observed DNA profile is greater than 700 billion times more likely to occur from if the sample originated from Michael Redlick as opposed to unrelated individual.
And moving on to marker number 22 that we analyzed. Once again, for the jury for demonstrative purposes, VR. And permission to approach, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Hearing the witness what's been entered as states 9. You recognize?
Yeah, this is a swab from a sink from evidence marker 22 that I also analyzed with my pieces of information that I would have wrote on it, as well as my initials on a seal.
Okay. So this was the last swab that you analyzed?
Correct.
So now let's discuss what, if anything, you found on evidence marker 22. Was there the presence of blood?
Tested positive for indications of a presence of a blood.
And were you able to determine a profile?
Yes, it was a complete DNA profile that was consistent with male individual and it matched Michael Redlick.
So as the same with 21, there was no mixture on this profile. Is that correct?
No, it was a single source profile.
And finally, can you tell the jury what's the likelihood ratio?
The observed DNA profile is greater than 700 billion times more likely that the sample originated from Michael Redlick as opposed to unrelated individual.
No further questions, Your Honor?
All right, cross-examination, Ms. Conlon?
Afternoon. Let's talk about Michael Redlick's fingernails. The right fingernails, there was the presence of a mixture. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So that means it was Michael Redlick and someone else. Is that right?
There was an indication of additional DNA contribution to that sample.
Okay. So it was Michael Redlick and then someone else's DNA.
Some other additional DNA to Michael Redlick, not necessarily someone else, because I was not able to determine how many individuals would contribute to it. It could be one, it could be more.
Okay. So we have Michael Redlick and either someone else or maybe 1, 2, or 3 other additional individuals.
It's possible.
All right. Now, when you talk about the hand swabs that were represented to you as belonging to Michael Redlick, we're talking about swabs of the blood. Is that right?
Correct.
And you're testing, number 1, is there the presence of the blood?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then number 2, you're testing if that blood is Michael Redlick's.
Well, there was a presence of indications of a presence of a blood in that sample. I'm not sure if that would be coming from Michael Redlick or someone else, but the blood is a very strong source of DNA.
Okay, so you would expect if Michael Redlick bled, that is consistent with the kind of result you would get.
It would be intuitive to believe that maybe blood contributed to that to that result.
Now, you also had an opportunity to examine a long sleeve shirt that was represented to you as belonging to Danielle Redlick.
Correct.
And this shirt had underneath the collar a rip in it when you examined it.
Yes, there was 2 rips observed by the neckline of the shirt.
Nothing further.
Any redirect?
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. You may step down. Next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. State calls Amanda Stevens.
Right. Stop right now. Thank you very much. Need somebody with a human touch. Hey, you always on the run. Da, 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 da. Have some fun. Da, da, da. Yeah, I think you're right there, Maxie. And good work, Jonathan. Kim, good question. How are you finding this, John? Not good. I feel a little bit, if I'm being honest with you, I feel a little bit of a bit fraudulent with this trial. I've not given it my best because we've got that Krieger family quadruple murder trial. I find myself concentrating on that and thinking about that all the time. And I'm not really thinking on this, and I don't think I'm doing this justice. I don't think I'm doing the stream justice. I'm just sitting here. I'm not even listening to half of it, which it's not like me. I don't like that. But I think it's because I'm concentrating on other things. And also my personality, I've got lots going on as well. But not in a bad way, just lots going on, as we all do. But I don't feel like I'm doing what we normally do with these. I don't have much to contribute, if you know what I mean. Whereas the other one, I'm looking so forward to our other trial. So that's why, do you know what I mean? I feel a bit bad because I'm not really engaging with you guys on it, so it feels we're just going through the ringer now. So that's how I feel, do you know what I mean? So not all streams are like this, obviously, but it's one of those streams which I hate because I think it's a good trial, you know. So, oh, Bud, oh, you love love Maxi Taxi. You need coffee. I do. It's nothing to do with that. I don't know. The trial is fine, but like I'm not engaged like this now. I'm engaging now, but I'm not engaged one bit over it. And it's not because I don't like you guys. I love you guys, but it's more of a. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. But I also know I'm not looking forward to streaming this beforehand. So I think with these things, you've got to stream consistently. So I don't know. That's how I feel anyway. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I mean, look, I am sort of enjoying it. It's not like it's not a bad trial. It's actually a good trial. It's just when you're not clued into it all, and I feel bad, and because of that, I feel like I'm letting the chat down because like everyone's quiet, like Nunya's quiet. Dunya's probably she's probably bouncing around leaking somewhere, but so normally not contributing, so we know how much you love medical testimony. Kimmy, no, but like if I don't understand something, I'll stop and ask questions. There's lots of stuff here I've probably not understood, but I'll not ask a question, which is a shame because we've got people here like Maxi Taxi. She knows loads about DNA. We speak about DNA. Not asked her one question, and most of it I don't understand. Do you know what I mean? So, normally we'd be asking more questions. So, I don't know. This is not indicative of all our streams before anyone, Monica, Tim, and all them. Before you think this is like it is, it's not. It's not always like this. Well, Jonathan's always like this. Jonathan's 100% always like this. So, be prepared with Jonathan. But that's the standard. We love Jonathan for that. But yeah. So anyway, you asked a question. I answered it honestly. You always get an honest answer, Kim, if you ask. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna fuck about and say I was going to swear there. Right, let's go back. There's not much left of them. I'm trying to work out how much is left, and that's a bad sign when I'm working out how much is left. 5. Probably about an hour and a half. Bit over an hour and a half. So let's get back to it. We're nearly there. Bam bam ba bam 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 bam. Who's next? She did say as well.
I do. Thank you very much.
Why? Let's see the name now.
Stevens, would you please state your full name for the record? Spell your first and last name.
I will. Thank you. It's Amanda Stevens, Amanda. Last name is Stephen's.
Mr. Wiggins.
Good afternoon, Ms. Stevens. Where are you employed?
I work for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement out of our Orlando office.
What do you do out of that Orlando office?
I'm a crime intelligence analyst, currently assigned to our electronic surveillance support team.
Do you have a specific focus within the electronic surveillance support team?
I do. My focus within the unit is cell phone record analysis and mapping.
What's your educational background?
I have a 4-year degree from the University of Central Florida.
What training have you received in order to hold this position within the electronic surveillance support team with the focus on cell phones?
Specific to like classroom training hours, I have just shy of 300 hours of training specific to this type of work. So cell phone record analysis, mapping, understanding, utilizing, mixed in with over 900 hours of total training since being part of FDLE.
What is it that you guys do, or maybe your main focus within this particular team at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
So the primary function of the electronic surveillance support team is fugitive apprehension. So our daily goal is to assist local agencies in apprehending and capturing any felons with a fugitive warrant.
Is one of the tools that you rely upon to do your job in fugitive apprehension cell phone records and data provided by the cellular carrier?
Yes, it is. That's primarily what we use.
And this type of data is actually used to go out into the field and locate people?
Yes, it is.
Can you explain how these records are used to locate a wanted fugitive?
So once we receive the phone records from the provider, We analyze them for call pattern analysis, usage, who they speak with most often, where they are most often, kind of get a pattern of life for that individual. And that's kind of a starting point for us to know kind of the pattern of the activity. And then from there, utilizing the same information as it's coming in live from the phone carrier as well, to direct and aid the fugitive teams as to where to go to locate their fugitive.
This is a use of this particular type of records to go out into the world and locate someone in real time. Can these same records be used to look backwards in time and provide a sense for where a particular device was at a particular time?
Yes, we've done it both in real time and historically.
Describe how cellular networks work that enables you to make these determinations either in real time or after the fact.
So the information that we receive from the cell phone provider is kind of a varied across the providers, what each phone company gives us and how it's given to us. But ultimately what we receive is the information as to what antenna the device was using at the time of the communication. So if we're looking at historical records, we'll get a date and a time and a duration, who they were speaking with, and then what antenna was utilized for that call. So now we have like a general area where that call took place. Live, we get the same information. We also may get a geolocation, an estimate of location on the device. So depending on whether we are working solely with live records or historical or a combination, we get kind of a little bit of everything.
Are you able to use this data and a larger understanding of the overall cellular network to help provide a best guess about where a particular device was when it made a particular call?
Yeah, so with the training and experience kind of working together, understanding the basics of the network, how it's utilized, how the antennas work together, how the cell phone contacts the antennas, we can estimate a general area of coverage for those antennas. So in the absence of a geolocation, we can still give an area.
How is it that you come up with an estimate? What is sort of the guiding principle that you apply in expressing some estimate about an area where a cell phone might be?
What we have found in our office to be most accurate and well advised across kind of the board of talking to coworkers and things of that nature is looking at the environment as a whole. So where all the cell antennas are for that providers. Say you're using AT&T, for example, knowing like what all of the region looks like for that one provider, and then measuring a coverage distance. And the estimated coverage that we use is 70%. So outward from the direction it's facing, 70% until it would interact with another antenna. So that allows for the edges to overlap a little bit so that there's no dead zones, no pockets of non-coverage, but also not allow the two antennas to completely cover each other and kind of cause an interference either. So the 70% is a pretty good estimate that we've seen work in real time and be kind of used by coworkers, others in our environment.
Does the estimate that you provide also take into account the surrounding towers?
Yes, the surrounding towers is what we use to measure. So we will look outward from the direction the antenna is facing and measure physically on the map how far all the antennas are away, and then do 70% of the average distance.
What determines the array of towers out in the world for a cellular provider?
The provider themselves, based on the need for coverage by their market.
And are some areas sort of more densely packed with towers than others?
Yes, the more urban the environment, downtown areas, larger cities are very much densely populated by antenna coverage. So your coverage of each antenna is going to be significantly smaller. The more rural you get, the larger coverages you have because there's not as much of a population need. So the coverage can be handled even across a larger distance.
Showing defense counsel what has been marked as states, or in evidence rather, as states 36 and 37. Permission to approach?
Yes.
Ms. Stevens, in this particular case where you provided the records that are contained within both of those disks and asked to create a mapping presentation.
I was.
And prior to your testimony here today, have you had a chance to review the contents of those disks and confirm that the files contained within those disks contain the data that is used for the mapping presentation we're about to see?
Yes, it is.
Ms. Stevens, do all activities that I do on my cell phone produce location data?
It depends on the carrier, but typically no.
What types of things might I do on my cell phone that is not going to give you any sort of location data that you can use to map in the presentation we're about to see?
Depending on the carrier, you may not get location for text messages. You may only get calls. If you don't request specific files, you may not get data activity. There's also files that estimate location in historical based on timing and towers and things of that nature. If you don't specifically request those, they may not be there, or if you wait too long, they may not be available. So it really just depends on the carrier and how long has lapsed since the timing of the incident that you're looking for the records.
it would be accurate to say that for example, SMS messages, they will appear within the records that you're provided, but you're not going to be able to use them to put a device on a map at a particular time.
Depending on the carrier.
Well, let's talk about this carrier. You had those records. Did you also have access to the tower map that was in use back in January of 2019?
I did.
And what carrier are we dealing with?
Verizon.
I'm showing defense counsel what's marked as states U for identification purposes. Permission to approach the witness with states U.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens, would you look through states U composite exhibit, and when you're done, look up for me. Do you recognize states U as a fair and accurate depiction of the mapping presentation that you created from the records that are in evidence and the tower data you have access to?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would seek to move in evidence what has been marked as states U for identification purposes.
Any objection?
No objection.
States U will be admitted as the next numbered exhibit.
State Exhibit 57.
Permission to publish?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Stevens, let's start with the cover page of your report and explain what you've done to try to make these records sort of more understandable at a glance.
So a couple of things. You can see that in this title page, each of the phone numbers has its own color assigned to it. That's going to follow through in all of the mapping. So that way, as you're looking at the map, you can easily see which phone number is mapped on each page. The 408 is always going to be blue, and the 901 is always going to be green.
So we have a 408, the Michael number, and green Danielle number. And green and blue will sort of be our color codes as we're moving through the presentation.
Yes, exactly.
Let's look at the first slide of the actual presentation and tell the jury what we're looking at.
So what we see here is some text message activity, and throughout the presentation, there will be some text message activity included. However, it's just there to see that activity was occurring. In Verizon's case, there is no tower data, no antenna information provided for text messaging. Additionally, depending on where the text message was routed through their network, which is that first column, your timestamps may be different. So on each page, there's also kind of a box which shows our local time. So that way, for ease of access, you can see what time it would have been here.
For example, this is a text message between our green and blue numbers.
Correct.
At the local time of 055.
Right, exactly. So you can see that the blue phone is being routed through Seattle. So even though it's a text between the two, the green phone is being routed through Alpharetta, which is Georgia. So it shares the time zone as we do. So that one is actually an accurate timestamp, whereas the other one looks a little off. But when you change the time zone, it shows that they're at the same time.
For ease of understanding throughout the presentation, you have a sort of breakout box that tells us our local time.
Yes, I do.
So let's look at our next slide. Help the jury understand generally what we're seeing here, and then we'll talk specifically about this particular entry.
Okay, so the information at the top is the cell phone record straight out of the electronic file that we received from Google. Again, color coordinated to help kind of ease of viewing. And then below, what we're seeing is a general representation of the coverage area for the antenna that was in use for the time of this event. So from the records, it gave us an antenna number and what side of the cell site and the antenna was in use. And this is your approximate coverage range.
The fact that the antennas are divided by size, is that what explains the sort of pie shape?
Correct. Most cell sites in our region, actually in Florida, are divided currently into a 3-sided configuration. There are some anomalies, but specific to Verizon, we pretty standardly see 3 sides. So each cell site would then have 3 sectors, and then each one facing its own direction handles everything outward from there. So they work independently, even though they're affixed to the same cell site and location.
Explain to the jury this red dot, how this red dot came to be included on your presentation.
That was provided to me by law enforcement.
Is it part of the creation of these presentations where you get a little bit of context for maybe some important locations and you include them on maps?
Typically, yes, we may receive like a list of addresses or locations of interest, and if they fall within anything that we're mapping, to make them viewable. If they obviously aren't within the mapping, then you don't see them. So in this case, it was provided to us, and in some of the slides, you do see that it falls within the area of coverage.
Can you explain the offset appearances of these 2 bodies? Does that have any sort of significance, or is that just for easy presentation?
It's just for ease of presentation. That way you can see that both devices were utilizing the same cell site and sector. The fact that they're off a little bit is just so that you can see that there's 2 independent lines, each with their own color.
So for this particular data entry, does it show our blue phone or Michael phone calling our green phone or Danielle phone?
Yes, the 408 number, the blue phone, calls the 901 phone, which is the green phone, at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Now moving to the fourth slide in the presentation, what do we see represented here?
So this is another call now at 11:37 in the morning local time. And you can see that that address is still kind of in view, but it's not within the coverage. So this antenna is kind of offset from where we just were looking at, a little bit further to the southwest, if you will, from the previous one, for this call that occurred at 11:37.
Is this consistent with our green device initiating or taking part in a cell phone call and not being home at the Temple Drive address?
Correct, yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the timing of this call. The last slide we saw was 7 o'clock. This slide is 11:37. Are you skipping any records?
No, these are all the calls that had location within the call record.
Throughout this presentation, the jury is going to see all available calls with all if they had location.
Correct.
No sort of selected calls.
No.
Okay. This is our next data point from the green Danielle records.
Yeah, so similar to the first one, this is the next call. So just under an hour later at 12:33 in the afternoon. Again, still kind of in the same general area. You can still see the Temple Drive address, however, not quite covering it. So in the neighborhood, but not quite where it was. And
Well, welcome, Monica. Thanks for subscribing. Well, yeah. I was thinking, have we got two Monicas now in chat? We've got Monica. We've got one Monica. Do we have two Monicas now? But anyway, welcome, Monica. Well, it's not official till Sarah P says welcome, but still welcome.
again, moved from the last one as well.
Explain to the jury what they're seeing here. Slide 6, just records.
Yeah, so there was a lot of records for this time period. So unfortunately, the records are on one page and the map will be on the next page. However, you can see that for just about an hour and 20 minutes worth of time, there was quite a bit of text activity, which is the stuff at the bottom that has, again, the Seattle and the Alpharetta and Duluth in the first columns. And then the information at the top is any actual voice calls that occurred in that same hour and 20-minute time span. So both devices having quite a bit of activity.
Can you explain to the jury a little bit about what the actual call?
So we have two Monicas, Monica Burgess and Monica C. Well, hey, Monicas, lovely.
All records show as far as what the blue phone is doing and what the green phone is doing during this time period.
So the green phone is receiving and also, well, it's kind of split. The green phone receives a number, then makes two calls, and then receives a call. The blue phone makes a call and then receives two calls. Some of them are with each other and some of them are not. So there are some other phone calls occurring at this time as well.
Do you actually see an example of the green phone being on phone with the on phone call while the blue phone is trying to reach the green phone?
I like the green phone at the top, the 813. You can see that it's like two different calls kind of at the same time. So one of them probably rang in. They both show a duration, so it doesn't really indicate to us, which one, although one was the green phone making the call and one was the green phone receiving the call. So they could have been put on hold. It could have just been the ringing time of the duration, but one shows a 14-second and one shows a 36-second duration.
And our next slide, slide 7, is that an expression of all the available location data for the green phone activity and the blue phone activity?
Yeah, so even though there was quite a bit of activity, there wasn't much location. There was one for each device. So for that hour and 20 minutes or so, there wasn't really any significant movement, at least not enough movement that there would have been a change in cell sites. They could have stayed in that general area and never switched, but not enough of a movement, again, where either one of them utilized a different cell site.
You could, now we're looking at 1313 through 1430. Could you convert that from military time to civilian time?
Sure, it's 1:13 in the afternoon to 2:33 in the afternoon.
Slide 8. What do you see?
So again, this is just the next call activity available for the 901 number. It's at 16:38, so 4:38 in the afternoon, and it's a incoming call.
There was no activity to be mapped for the blue phone from this year.
Correct.
Again, so we're not leaving out blue phone calls.
No.
You may have just said this, but convert that to civilian time.
4:38 p.m.
All right. Slide 9. What does the jury see here?
So this is the next bit of activity on the devices. This is, however, text message. So again, we don't have a location for it, but we can see that there is texting between both devices and with each other as well.
At what time?
Right around 8 p.m., 20 to 20:02 hours is 8 to 8:02 p.m.
Ms. Stevens, let me ask you this. If I am texting with someone on my phone and I decide to delete those texts, does it have any impact on the records that are held by the carrier?
No, not by the carrier.
Is this an example of the next instance where there is location data associated with either the blue or the green phone?
Correct. So just a couple minutes after that string of text messages that occurred, I guess it's about 7 minutes later, the 901 number is seen kind of southwest from the Temple Drive for kind of location purposes along Fairbanks and 1792 in Winter Park.
That was slide 10, this will be slide 11. What's the time frame we're looking at? What's the activities?
So 21:37, 21:38 is going to be 9:37 to 9:38 p.m. And you can see that the blue phone does the 408, the blue phone does make a call to the 901 number. And it looks like it's back at the same kind of starting cell site that covers the Temple Drive. And the green phone, while it does cover the Temple Drive, is not at that same cell site at this point. It's a little bit further south.
Based off of what you're seeing in the records through time over the course of this day, it's more consistent with the green phone being away from the home tower and somewhere else.
Yeah, it seems based on the records that the devices prefer that, can you slide it down? The 239 antenna, that's what we call their hot tower. So it does look a little odd if it would have been at the home address and not be using that like preferred home tower, but this tower does cover, but I would assume it based on like experience and seeing the records over time that the device is away.
Are you able to provide the duration that there was any for this particular call?
So the 408 called the 901 number and it was an 18-second call, but it actually doesn't show that it came through on the green phone, the 901. It actually looks like it was on a call with a 317 number. So it may not have ever connected.
Last slide. We see.
This is the next bit of call activity for either device, and it's about 12 hours later. It's 9:28, 9:30 to just shy of 10 a.m. the next morning. More activity on the 901, just one incoming call on the 408 number.
So the blue phone data that's represented on this particular slide is because someone called the blue phone.
Correct.
We see these 911 entries. Was this the only instance that you saw within these records, within the time frame that we're looking at, that the green phone initiated a call to 911?
Yes.
If we back up here and we look at this record on page 11, is this the last time that there is any sort of outgoing activity on the blue phone, the Michael Redlick phone?
Yes.
I have no further questions. Well, actually, let me ask, let me make this.
The gilf. How I have missed my gilf. My gilf. I have missed you. I've missed you. Missed you, missed you, missed you. I hope the new job is going well. I hope it's going well. I didn't want to distract you, but God, have I missed you. It's wonderfully popping. I kept my distance a little bit because you transited into a new job. But wow, I love the gilf. So for those that are new, like Monica, Lady Law, Monica, do you know yesterday you posted a picture of the roast beef? That's roast beef is because of Lady Law. she's the one that maybe created it. I won't go into why. It's dirty. It's really dirty why she maybe created it. It's to do with the vagina. So maybe you can read into that. I know that's why I've left you be. I know you new job, new everything. So I've just left you. Do you know what I mean? On Thanksgiving, I know you had families, family round and stuff like that. So just left you to it. But it's lovely as always to see you. I used to no. Lady Law said that one of her friends had it. So that's why I put it in. Fluffy, fluffy, fluffy. Lady Law doesn't. Shit. Let's get back to the trial. But Lady Law, love having Lady Law here. And if you're a stalwart, you'll know how much I love this woman.
There is also no data that ever shows that the blue phone ever leaves the home.
She told
category
us.
during this time.
She told us on stream. She told me on stream. Lady Law, she got a new job, yes, with a different company, different sector, I think. So she's been busy. That's why you haven't seen much of her on X and stuff. She's been busy either working or with a new man, and stuff like that. So there we are. Too busy to talk about. I know you are, but she brought it up. So
From this time period through to the Hagen presentation.
No, there's no other call activity until the incoming call at 9:30ish the next morning, and it's in the same location.
Any other questions?
All right, now is a good time for us to take an afternoon break. So we're going to have the deputy escort you to the jury room. We'll take a break and I'll call you back in a few minutes.
And how long were you at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement biology section?
From May of 2009 until November of 2021.
And what type of education and training do you have that qualifies you in order to work in the biology section?
Hey, gotta get the bread to go with the roast beef. Do you know what I mean? So gotta, or to get good stuff in. One of the two.
I have a Bachelor of Science from Purdue University in pre-medicine. I have 2 Master of Science degrees, both from the University of Florida, one in forensic toxicology and the other in DNA and serology.
And I would like.
Oh, I missed who this woman is. I missed who this was coming. Paul was it. It was just to see if you enjoyed the trial or not. This trial or not. And you would love the family, doesn't you? I guess you would. Well, you said it, so you haven't been here for a while, so of course it's going to turn into something sexual.
I'd like to talk to you about when you were working for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement at the Tampa Bay Regional Operations Center in the biology section. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you were working there, could you please tell the jury what you're doing?
I better go back and just see.
And how long have you been in your current position?
Here we go.
Ms. Tilka, would you please state your full name for the record? Spell your first and last name, please.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Ashley Tilka, spelled Ashley. Last name T as in Tom, Ilka.
And could you please tell the jury where you're currently employed?
I am currently employed as a DNA analyst at the Pinellas County Forensic Laboratory in Pinellas County, Florida.
And how long have you been in your current position?
I have been at PCFL since November of 2021.
And where were you previously employed prior to your current location?
I was previously employed at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Tampa Bay Regional Operations Center in the biology section, also as a DNA analyst.
And how long were you at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement biology section?
From May of 2009 until November of 2021.
And what type of education and training do you have that qualifies you in order to work in the biology section?
I have a Bachelor of Science from Purdue University in pre-medicine. I have 2 Master of Science degrees, both from the University of Florida, one in forensic toxicology and the other in DNA and serology.
And I would like to talk to you about when you were working for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement at the Tampa Bay Regional Operations Center in the biology section, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So when you were working there, can you please tell the jury what your duties and responsibilities were?
My primary duties were to screen items of evidence for the possible presence of bodily fluids and conduct DNA testing on those items.
And did you receive any type of specific training in order to do this type of forensic serology and DNA testing?
Yes, I have completed 2 training programs, both at FDLE and at PCFL. I completed a training program in serology, which is the study of bodily fluids, as well as DNA analysis. In these training programs, I conducted test samples, took written tests, oral tests, did supervised casework under a qualified analyst, and then began independent caseworking after all of my requirements were met from training.
And how long, how long have you been conducting DNA testing?
I have been an independent caseworking analyst since May of 2015.
And approximately how many cases, how many times have you conducted a DNA analysis?
I'm not sure exactly how many cases, but I'm well over 10,000 samples to date.
And when you were working as a DNA analyst with the FDLE in Tampa, did they require proficiency testing?
Yes, we were given proficiency tests twice a year.
And did you ever fail any of the proficiency testing?
No, I passed all my proficiency tests.
And have you ever testified in the courts here in Florida as an expert within the field of forensic serology, specifically within the STR DNA testing?
Yes, I have testified as an expert 53 separate occasions.
At this point in time, I'm going to now ask you some questions based within your field of expertise within DNA. Now, you said that you worked for the Tampa Bay Regional Operations Office within the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Are there different offices within the FDLE that does DNA testing?
Yes, there are several different or we call them ROCs, Regional Operation Centers. There is Fort Myers, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, and Pensacola. And all of those regions all have a separate DNA unit.
And do each of the regions use the same testing analysis and how you go about doing analysis for DNA?
Yes, we all have the same instrumentation, chemistries, and the same operating procedures that we all work from.
And do you use the same protocol when you actually do the individual analysis for conducting the DNA analysis?
Yes, we all operate under the same operating procedure with all operation centers.
Now, not just with the analysis, what about the statistics? Do you use the STR mix method and use the same statistical analysis as the Orlando lab does?
Yes, we do use the STR mix or STAR mix program, of which I was actually on the validation team that did the validation for the entire STAR mix program out of Tampa.
Now, let's talk about controls. Do you also use controls when you were doing your DNA testing?
Yes, I do.
And what type of controls do you use when doing DNA testing?
So the controls that we use are what's known as a positive and a negative control. A positive control is going to be a known DNA profile of types that are given to us by the manufacturer. So when I get to my end result of my testing, I should have this known DNA profile for comparison. My negative control is essentially blank of any DNA, free and clear, and it's only the chemicals that I used throughout the process. So when I get to my final result, my one negative control should be completely clear, and my positive control should have the known profile.
And do you take any steps in order to prevent contamination while you're doing your DNA analysis?
Yes, we take several steps to prevent any type of contamination. Firstly, before even touching items of evidence, I thoroughly clean my work area and all utensils with a cleaning agent. I then put on my PPE, or my personal protective equipment, which is going to be my lab coat, face mask, hairnet, and gloves. I only test one item of evidence at a time, and then I thoroughly clean and change my PPE in between each item. Once I have collected my samples, I process my question samples and my known samples, either separated by time and or space, throughout the whole process to ensure that there's no cross-contamination between samples. And then obviously the controls that go throughout it as well.
And does the FDLE lab over in Tampa, does it hold any certifications or accreditations?
Yes, we are accredited both as the laboratory, as the ROC, and then overall as FDLE as well. We are accredited by ANAB, which stands for the American National Standards Institute National Accreditation Board.
Now, at this point in time, I'd like to direct your attention to this case today. At any point in time, did you work on an FDLE case number 2019-05-00728?
Yes, I did.
And did you analyze some pieces of evidence that were submitted to you under that case number?
Yes, I did.
Now, could you tell the jury in this particular case, did you receive any known standards that you actually worked up in this case?
No, I did not physically receive the actual known standard or buccal swab. What I did receive was essentially the electronic data or the DNA types from the standards that were run over here in Orlando to use for my interpretation in Tampa.
So pretty much in the lab here in Orlando, they received standards and you received the electronic versions of the information obtained from those standards?
That's correct, yes.
And how many standards did you receive in this particular case that you used as known standards?
I received data for 2 standards.
And who were those 2 standards?
Danielle Redlick and Michael Redlick.
Now, can you tell the jury what type of evidence did you receive in this particular case?
May I reference my notes?
Yes.
I received 4 separate knives. One was labeled as a knife from evidence marker 4, a knife from evidence marker 5, a knife from evidence marker 6, and a knife from evidence marker 7.
Okay, so let's go through those one by one and talk about your analysis. I'm showing the jury permission of public sharing what's been marked as admitted as states 22.
Yes.
So let's start with the knife that was marked as stage 4. And I believe that was your item number 6?
That is correct.
Okay. Commissioner Approach?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I'm handing the witness what's been entered as states 31.
Need gloves? Do you want me to open it?
Is this, do you recognize this?
Yes.
And is this the knife in which you analyze as your mark number 6?
Yes.
And so this is the one that you did your analysis on, right?
That is correct, yes.
Thank you. And Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to ask the judge.
Okay.
Now there should be a pointer. Is there a pointer around the screen? Yeah. Actually, you can. So can you tell the jury, as I'm pulling this out of this container box here, when you received this, what's been entered as states 31, can you tell the jury how you started doing analysis on it?
So prior to physically testing anything, obviously I'm going to inspect it and ensure that my outer package is labeled consistently with what the evidence says should be submitted. This was labeled accordingly as being FDLE item number 6, which was noted to be the knife at evidence marker 4. Once I do my visual inspection of the package, I will then open the inside of the package and do a visual inspection of the physical item, noting any brand possibilities, any possible biological fluid staining that I note, or anything else that would be of interest for my testing. And then I would proceed with my testing from there.
And when you proceeded with your
From this item, I did conduct what's known as a Kasselmeyer or phenolphthalein test for the possible presence of blood. This is the color change test that when I swab an item of evidence and drop a series of chemicals on it, it will give a bright pink highlighter color if it's positive. This item did give the bright pink color change test for the possible presence of blood. At that point, I then took samples from the handle of the knife and conducted my DNA testing on the sample from the knife.
And you said that you got samples from the handle of this knife, is that correct?
That is correct.
And could you tell the jury what, if anything, did you test that sample for the presence of blood?
Yes, I did. And it did give me the positive result for the possible presence of blood.
And after you had the presence of blood, were you able to determine whether or not there are any DNA profiles from that sample?
Yes, I did conduct STR DNA analysis on the swab I collected, and I did get a complete DNA profile that was consistent with a male individual.
And then did you compare the two known standard informations that you had I guess you had one, right, could you tell the jury what you did next with the known samples or standards that you had?
Yes, I compared both standards to my question profile, of which the profile matched the DNA profile from Michael Redlick.
Were you able to obtain a likelihood ratio?
Yes, the profile is greater than 700 billion times more likely if it originated from Michael Redlick than from an unrelated individual.
So moving on to the next item, can you tell the jury what was the next item in which you analyzed?
The next item that I tested was FDLE item number 7, which was noted to be the knife at evidence marker 5.
The record, this is entered already as states 22 composite.
Yes.
Okay, the witness was entered as states 28. Do you recognize states 28?
Yes, I do.
And is this the knife that you analyzed?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
So now on this one, with the pointer, can you show the jury where you collected the swab on this knife?
Yes, I collected the swabs from this textured region of the handle right here.
And did you test those swabs for the presence of blood?
Yes, I did, and it did give me a positive result for the presence of blood.
And were you able to determine if there are any profiles?
Yes, so for this sample, I did have a complete DNA profile that was consistent with a female individual.
And were you able to determine who that female individual was?
Yes, this profile was consistent with Danielle Redlick standard.
Did you determine a likelihood ratio?
Yes, the profile from the handle from the knife of evidence marker 7 was greater than 700 billion times more likely to have originated from Danielle Redlick than from an unrelated individual.
So moving on to the next knife in which you analyzed, can you tell the jury what that was? Your item number 8.
Yes, item number 8 was the knife that was collected from evidence marker 6.
Permission to approach?
Yes, ma'am.
And the witness was entered as 29. You recognize what's been entered as 29?
Yes, I do.
And what is this?
This is FDLE item number 8, the knife from evidence marker 6.
And this is the knife that you swabbed and tested in this case?
That is correct.
Permission to approach, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
So once again, for the pointer, can you please tell the jury where you swabbed this particular item?
So for this item, I collected a sample strictly from the teeth of the serrated blade due to the fact of this item was going on for further processing at a different unit, and our procedures limit us the areas that we're allowed to test when subsequent testing from another area is occurring. So due to that limitation, I was only able to swab the serrated teeth of the knife.
So when you swabbed the serrated teeth of the knife, did it indicate the presence of blood?
For this sample, I actually did not get a positive result for the presence of blood.
Even though you did not get a positive result for the presence of blood, were you able to find any DNA profiles?
Yes, with this sample, I obtained a mixture consistent with 2 individuals, including at least 1 male contributor.
And did you compare that to the 2 known standards in which you had?
Yes, I did.
And what were those results?
The evidence profile was was approximately 440 billion times more likely to be made up of Michael Redlick in an unrelated individual than 2 unknown unrelated individuals. And I was not able to make a comparison between Danielle Redlick and the mixed DNA profile. So I did not have a statistical rendering for that item. I was not able to make any determinations of her contribution to the mixture.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. So you weren't able to make a determination as to Danielle Redlick. Why is that?
Our likelihood ratios essentially are giving up 2 competing hypotheses. For this evidence, essentially, I'm trying to say somebody's DNA could possibly be present or not be present. Based on the way that mathematically likelihood ratios work, I did not get a statistic of a great enough value to definitively include Danielle Redlick's profile in this mixed DNA profile. It's what's called in our inconclusive or no determinations range. And this is due to the fact of through validations and studies, you can possibly have false inclusions or false exclusions in this numerical range for the likelihood. So to err on the side of caution, we don't make determinations if that statistical value falls in that range. And this sample did.
So just to be clear, Danielle Redlick could not be included nor excluded. Is that correct?
That is correct. There was no definitive determination made as far as Danielle Redlick's profile as a contribution to this mixture.
So let's move on to the last item. And I just want to make sure it is the last item, correct? Number 9?
Yes, for me, correct.
Okay. That you analyzed. And could you please tell the jury where that was?
This was a knife that was collected from evidence marker 7.
Commissioner Quicker?
Yes, ma'am.
30. Handing you what's been admitted as states 30. Do you recognize states 30?
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize states 30?
It has our FDLE case number, exhibit number, and my handwritten date and initials on it.
And is this the knife in which you analyzed as your item number 9?
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Yes.
And then with the pointer, can you please tell the jury where you swabbed this knife for DNA?
Similar to the other item, due to the further processing that was going to occur, I was limited as to where I could test, and I collected a sample strictly from the teeth and the ridge areas of the serrated blade.
And did you test to see if there was any presence of blood?
Yes, I did. This sample did give me a positive result for the possible presence of blood.
And were you able to determine a profile?
Yes, I was. This sample gave me a complete DNA profile consistent with a male individual.
And finally, did you compare that with both of the known standards in which you had the information on in this case?
Yes, this profile from the knife from evidence marker 7 blade was consistent with Michael Redlick.
Finally, did you determine a likelihood ratio?
Yes, so this profile is greater than 700 billion times more likely to have originated from Michael Redlick than from an unrelated individual.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Vince?
No, I cannot determine how the DNA was used. No, I'm not able to determine when the DNA was deposited on the knives.
And you're not able to determine if it was used to protect oneself from an attacker.
No, I'm not able to determine when the DNA was deposited or when it was deposited.
No other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Your next witness, state.
Your Honor, at this time, the state is not going to call a witness. We are going to try yet again to finish publishing the CST videos that we tried earlier, State Judge.
Law enforcement.
What are your primary?
I'm a
Mr.
Frank.
Spell your first and last name.
Yes, ma'am. It's Frank Heinzman. It's Frank Heinzmann.
Mr. Wiggins.
Good afternoon, Mr. Heinzman. Where are you employed?
I'm a special agent with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
What are your primary job responsibilities as a special agent with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
I perform 2 roles for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. The first is an investigator. The second is I'm a digital forensic examiner for the agency.
What is the primary focus of the unit that you serve in this investigative capacity?
I work on a cybercrime unit. We handle anything related to cyber-related crimes, computer-related crimes.
Do you have any prior law enforcement experience?
Yes, this is my 24th year in law enforcement. I started my career in 1998 as a deputy sheriff with the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. I spent about 4.5 years in patrol there, and then the remainder of my time I was a detective at the sheriff's office there. It was in 2007 with the sheriff's office that I became a digital forensic examiner. I left the Alachua County Sheriff's Office in 2008 to take a job with the Attorney General's Office Child Predator Cybercrime Unit here in Orlando, where I did the same thing. I was an investigator and I also did digital forensics. That unit was legislatively transferred into the Florida Department of Law Enforcement in July of 2011, where I have been ever since, performing that same role that I've pretty much done since 2007 when I was a detective with the Sheriff's Office.
Would you please speak to your educational background and training as it relates to the digital forensics examination portion of your job duties?
I have a master's degree in digital forensics from the University of Central Florida. I also have several hundred hours of training in digital forensics. Some of that is just generic training about how computers and cell phones and things like that work. And some of that is vendor specific. In this case, I have vendor specific training and experience from a company called Magnet Forensics that makes a program called Internet Evidence Finder, or IEF for short, as you'll hear me testify about it today. I've been using that program since 2013.
Is that the only vendor-specific digital forensics tool that you're familiar with?
No, I have training in several different digital forensics tools that are vendor-specific.
Do you have any experience actually instructing in the field of digital forensics?
Yes, I was an instructor for the National White Collar Crime Center for a number of years, between the time I was the Sheriff's Office and the Attorney General's Office.
Who is Tim Doucette?
Tim Doucette is a former examiner that worked with me at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
Has Mr. Doucette or Agent Doucette since left the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
Yes, he took a job with a private firm, and now I believe he works for the federal government.
Have you been asked to testify here today to an extraction that was obtained by Mr. Doucette in January of 2019?
Yes, that is correct.
What was the forensics tool that Mr. Doucette used?
He used IEF in this case.
And that's a tool that you have experience with?
Yes, sir.
And training with?
Yes, sir.
In addition to performing that extraction, did he memorialize the sort of steps that he took in order to obtain extraction from two particular devices? A Samsung laptop that's an evidence of states 23, and a HP laptop that's an evidence of states 14.
Yes, he did.
Did you review that report?
Yes, I did.
Can you explain how this IEF magnet forensics tool is utilized generally and then specifically in this case?
IEF will search a device for data. When it finds data, it will parse that data into different categories for the examiner. For example, if it finds things that are Google searches, it will put them in a category titled Google searches. It'll do the same thing for documents, for pictures, for emails, and there's quite a few different categories that it will take that data and parse it into. In this particular case, the focus is on emails. There are emails in this case that IEF found and parsed into the emails category.
Were copies of the forensic extractions that were obtained from the Samsung and HP laptop maintained within an internal FTLE database?
Yes, we keep all that stuff in-house.
And prior to your testimony, did you and I have an opportunity to review some exhibits that I told you I intended to admit from the HP device?
Yes, that is correct. We didn't have that meeting.
Did you have an opportunity to confirm that these exhibits exist within the forensic extraction that was maintained within your database?
Yes, I was able to confirm that.
Did you also have an opportunity to familiarize yourself with some of the databases obtained from the extraction from both of these laptop devices?
Yes, I did.
Specifically, as it relates to the HP laptop, did you see any user account information associated with that device?
Yes, the user account for the HP laptop, I only had one user-created account, and that name was Michael.
Did it have an email that was associated with some of the things that were logged in on that device?
There were two primary emails under that account. First was mredlick@yahoo.com, and the other was mredlick@ucf.edu.
Did you also have an opportunity to familiarize yourself with the contents and some of the databases within the Samsung laptop?
Yes, I did.
Was that particular laptop password protected?
Yes, it was.
Did you see any user attribution related data within that laptop?
There was also one user created account on that laptop, and the user was Dan Dr, D-A-N-D-R.
And did you see an email that was associated within that laptop of Dan Drohan at yahoo.com?
Yes, that is correct. That was the email associated with that account.
Okay. I'm approaching you with what has been marked as states AF for identification purposes. States AF. This is a composite exhibit made up of two different documents. Do you recognize the first document that I'm handing you?
Yes, I do.
And what is that document?
This is the data related to the HP computer system that the data was taken from.
Is this sort of like the background work of the forensic tool that produced the other portion of this exhibit?
That is correct. This is actually the data portion of the device and all the different paths associated with it.
What about the second page? What's on the second page? And I'm not asking you to read the content, but what do you recognize and generally what is it?
Yes, this is the data associated with an email, an actual email that was recovered from this computer system.
I'm now showing you what are pages 3 and 4 of states AF. Do you recognize pages 3 and 4 to be the email that is associated with the report that the forensic tool has produced in connection with this particular exhibit that you're reviewing?
That is correct. Yes, sir. This is the email that is associated with this data.
Where, which laptop was that taken from? Which forensic extraction particular laptop?
This data was taken from the HP laptop, and it very clearly says that here in the data path.
Did I ask you to review the contents of the Samsung laptop to see if there was a copy or that particular email existed within the Samsung laptop?
Yes, you did ask me to do that, and I did do
Can
that.
you explain what you found when you went to look at the Samsung laptop to see if that email also existed in the Samsung laptop?
This exact email exists on the Samsung laptop.
And did you see evidence that was consistent with that email being forwarded to the Samsung laptop and the email account associated with the Samsung laptop?
Yes, the email that is on the Samsung laptop is a forward of the email from the HP laptop.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would seek to move into evidence what is marked as states AF for identification purposes.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
AF is the next numbered exhibit.
State Exhibit 58.
We're first going to, with permission from the court, publish states 58, look at the sort of forensic side of things. Looking at page 2, can you tell the jury what the forensic tool has produced on this page of the report and what you can say it represents?
Under where it says record number, IEF gives every file it finds its own individual number. So in this case, it's record number 4737. If you go to the sender name, that's the email that sent this email message. If you see the recipient, there's a name for the recipient there. What that tells me as an examiner is, since it's not an email address, that's somebody that's in the contact list. If that person was not in the contact list, you'd actually see an email address there. And then you have the subject of the email. Then you have some dates and times associated with the email, dates it was created on the computer system, delivery dates, and then the body of just means the body of the email. And then the last part there where it says folder name, that's the folder where it's sitting in on the Samsung computer. And
so let's look at the email itself. You could read the from and to.
the from is from Michael Redlick, mredlick@yahoo.com. The to is Michael Redlick, mredlick@ucf.edu.
Can you explain a little bit further about what you saw as far as this forwarding activity, how an exact copy of this email that we see in this exhibit was forwarded over to the account associated with Ms. Redlick?
This email was sent from Yahoo, mredlick@yahoo.com, to mredlick@ucf.edu. Shortly after that was done, it was forwarded to the Danielle Redlick email account, Yahoo email account.
What's the sent on this email?
The sent date on this is December 14th, 2018, and that's AM Eastern Standard Time.
Subject?
Forward, or FW, join my network on LinkedIn.
And can you read the body of the message?
You are a lying, rotten son of a bitch. Nice way to talk about our daughter, too. I'm done with you, Mike. We should talk about ending this. I'm ready. You are the most untrustworthy person I have ever known, and I have every right to choose not to be with that kind of person. You had every opportunity to tell me about this the other night, 2012, and then the number 1, and then really.
So what is kind of what follows in the remainder of the body of this email?
Would you like me to read it or just summarize?
Well, yeah, could you sort of summarize what has been included below this?
Below that is an email exchange from 2012 between a sender of mredlick@yahoo.com, identified as Michael Redlick in the emails, to an Elizabeth Corrigan, who uses an email address of ecorrigan@brooks.edu. It's essentially a communication that started through LinkedIn and then switched to email, and it's just a conversation back and forth about catching up, appears they're old friends, talking about family, children, marital status, things of that nature.
Is this consistent with a sort of a user clicking on this email thread and then drafting the body that you see at the top here and then forwarding that message or sending that message along?
Yes, that's correct. That's exactly what it is in this case.
I'm showing defense counsel what is marked as states Pause the exhibit. Do you recognize this to be a fair and accurate depiction of this particular email that you confirmed was recovered in the forensic extraction of Mr. Redlick's computer?
Yes, this is a fair and accurate representation.
Your Honor, this time the state would seek to move in evidence what has been marked as states AJ for identification purposes.
Any objection?
No objection.
And AJ will be admitted as the next numbered exhibit.
State Exhibit 59.
Permission to publish?
Yes, before you do that, instructions on an edited document is what I'm about to give to you now. Members of the jury, you are about to view a document. The court instructs you that the document has been edited to eliminate irrelevant portions that would not add to your understanding of the case. The fact that a document has been edited should not concern you in any way and must not impact the way you view and consider this evidence. Mr. Williams?
So like the last exhibit, we'll look at the forensic side of things first. The second page, could you tell the jury the information that you're able to discern from this portion of the forensic path of this particular exhibit?
Yes, you can see the sender name is Danielle Drohan, and there's an email, dandrohan@yahoo.com. It is sent to an mredlick@yahoo.com. Then you can see the subject is a forward. It's stuff I'm thinking about. And then there are some other dates associated with this particular email.
So let's talk about those dates and what you can infer from those dates.
The creation date in digital forensics is the date a file is actually physically created on a storage device. So it's not necessarily the date that it was created, it's the date it's saved on that device. And to give you an example to clear that up for you, if I take a picture of the courtroom here today, right now, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, my phone's going to save that picture today at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If I take my phone home tonight, connect it to my computer system, and I download that image to my computer at, say, 8 o'clock tonight, the created date for that image is going to be 8 o'clock tonight on my computer system. So the delivery date that you see there, that is the actual delivery date of the email address through the Yahoo servers. They date and time stamp that. That's where that delivery date comes from.
Okay, let's look at this email. We'll look at the top portion first. Should read the top portion of this email.
BTW, I totally stand by this. Best thing I ever wrote to you. And yes, even after I talked to Paul. Clearly, I had the balls to honestly address you, my feelings, emotions, and actions. Something I could never expect from you. This was quite appropriate despite your take on it. It's long, heartfelt, contemplative, intended, moving, and I'm quite proud of it. Truth.
From the forensic data, is that showing that this particular portion of the email was sent on May 14th, 2018?
That is correct. That is the top portion of the email that data references.
And this email is forwarding an email that was sent on May 14th, 2018.
Correct. And the next portion where you see the date and timestamp, this is the original email that's being referenced in the top portion of this email.
Okay. So let's read a portion of this email that is referred to as the best thing I ever wrote to you. Could you read this paragraph?
From the very top.
Please.
But really, I don't know how to be happy loving someone who does not represent the things I love or hold sacred. That just sets the stage for pain and or struggle / conflicts as it has. I just want to be happy now. I made up my mind that that is what I need to commit to, not a person or marriage, but my own true happiness. What a concept, I know. I think some of us have the subconscious belief deep down that we don't deserve to be happy, or that we don't get to be happy until we have suffered and or bled to death first. Well, I think I might be one of those people, and as illogical as the previous statement is, I have suffered, even bled to death, I'd say, and so any subconscious prerequisites to happiness are technically fulfilled. You wrote words that your spouse, lover does not have the capacity to be happy with anyone, whether that was something you believe, relate to, or just part of the act of for your audience. I know I can be happy. I just haven't committed to it. And I realize you do not hold the key, as I may have mistakenly given you permission to hold for so many years. In fact, it is only I who can hold that key, and only I who can unlock the door to my own happiness. I know what makes me happy, and I shouldn't let anyone rewrite, deny, or offer me anything less, let alone claim that I am not capable.
How many further questions in space?
Mr. Parnell?
First of all, thank you for being a member for 5 months. I really appreciate that, Sarah P. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your hard work and everything. I appreciate it. I really do. You know that. But where the fuck have you been? You weren't here to welcome Monica. You've not welcomed Monica. Where's Monica? Hang on. Monica is not a subscriber until you welcome them. You know that. Where's she gone now? Where's she gone? Sorry, Monica. Sarah P's lazy today. Here he is. There we are. Thank you for subscribing, Monica Burgess. Monica, not you, Monica, see? You've already been welcomed. But Monica Burgess, you're not welcome until Sarah P welcomes you. But she's away with the fairies somewhere. I 5 months. You're probably 5 months as well, Becky, you? You're probably 5 months. Hand pink waving. Got two Monicas now. I know, bloody hell. Sorry, I didn't mean to. No excuse. Welcome, Monica. Well, one of the two Monicas. I know, scary. Becky, press it. See how long you've been a member for. You're probably 5 months as well. 4 at least.
Yes, sir.
The last email you read, what month was that?
I was in May of 2018, I believe.
What's that question? What year?
It was 2018.
May 2018.
Told you, didn't I? Thank you to you as well, Becky, for your support. 5 months. Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. So, yeah, thank you guys for your support.
I believe so, yes, sir.
Nothing further.
Any redirect on that?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. You may step down.
Jonathan as well. Jonathan's been around for 2 months and doing a shimmy. See, thank you, Jonathan, as well. I think Kim is probably, she's not far off 6 months. Kim will be Kim, Lou, Erin. Geez, who else? I think it's somebody else as well. Are very close to 6 months. Not actually it might be Mexi, sorry. I'm such a loser. You got your free membership from Josie. It's Josie. You got your free membership. You're not a loser. I love you. But I forgot to say that when you said that. You got your free membership from Josie. Yeah, my memory's okay. Oh, Get the. I do have a good memory. I'm not too bad actually at remembering stuff actually, but I remember random stuff. Well, technically, Sarah P was number one. Her and Erin Hack, but somebody did not renew themselves, which meant that they went from being top to down, and Erin Hack did the same. So Kim, I think, and Maxine, all them got there in front of you. So not technically. Well, you've been around. You've been around. Sarah P. Just you're flicking a cigarette or something like Jesus Christ. Yeah, exactly. She said she could have words with you. She couldn't believe you would remember. And Sarah P. just got back from his house and told him, "Oh Jesus, good to see you, Lady Law." You won't do that. Kim, what are you, Kim? Can you press yours again then? Because you're nearly 6 months, Kim. Hang on, let me go and look at the back end. I can look at the back end. Oh, yeah, she is with excuses. YouTube Studio. Right, hang on. Earn. Membership. Let's. Wendy was the other one. Yeah, I forgot about Wendy. Let's have a look, see again. Let's have a look, see again. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Oh, it's 5.33. So yeah, Erin Hack and Kim are the two that had the longest memberships. Technically, Kim, and then Lou, Wendy. No, to be fair, Sarah P, you're still fourth, I think. Where's Mexi? I can't see Mexi. Here she is. No, Mexi's ahead of you. So Mexi's in fourth. You're in fifth. Sarah P. There we are. Mexi's fourth, you're fifth. Hang on, why is everyone blaming me? I didn't renew my compromise. You went from 1 to 5. It's all good though. It's all good. Hi, Mecky Techie. Jonathan, how do you even? Oh, jeez. Would have purchased that month for you. Do you know what? I would have. Do you know what? I can't even purchase it. I can't give it up. It's for me. I got to do random all the time. I gave out the other month. I think I ended up giving out 58 memberships myself. I'm not doing that again. Jesus, I don't think anybody renewed. As in, so I was like, I'm not doing that again. Do you wear your gun when Jesus? No, it wasn't a month. It was only like a week she missed. Well, actually, it's only a couple of days she missed. To be fair, it's only a few days she missed. So, hang on, Kim. Let's see when Kim, you signed up 13th of June, 2023. at 10, no, 17. I think that's, I'm not sure, 10:53, I think it is. Erin Hack was 10:55. So Erin Hack was 2 minutes behind you. But technically, Sarah P, I think, was the first. Yeah, I'm sorry, Kim. It's not been the best last few days. Not been the best last few days. You're just hang on. 5.33, 5.53. So just over 5.5 months. You've been Kim. Lose in third place. Good for you, Jonathan. Yes, I know, right, Mickey? Yeah. Those couple, it did compromise a few months. The month did. You girls stick together. Right, that stream's finished. Thank God. We've got about 12 hours left of this stream. So what we'll do is, look at me, I'm like, a little shower rug, but da-da, da-da, ba, 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Good hairline, strong hairline. I like your theory, Mexi sexy. Jeez, Mexi sexy, Mexi sexy. Sarah P's always number one. Jesus. Cool. So I went and we, yeah, right. Do you not get any off the internet then? I'll tell you why. I went on there, right? Hang on. I just looked it up and I was like, whoa, I didn't know this. I'm not sure. Can you access that link? I actually haven't heard of it. So I'm not sure if you. Thank you, Kim. I'm not sure if you get access to this. See if you can get access to that article then. To that Wikipedia. Does that work for you? Hey, I wore the bloody tutu. I wore the bloody tutu, Mrs. You have that one. Just trying to think if you can access any of these. Without me having to download. I presume you've seen the video by Danielle Kirsty. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, again, if you can't see some of these things, like maybe I can copy and paste some of it. Because otherwise, I'm not sure how I'm going to get it to you. I did wear in a registry, it was crap because no one could see it. Okay, let me carry on. So some of these you might not be able to open, but some of them you might be able to open. I don't know what's in them, mind, but oh, Discord, okay. There we are. I'll just post these kind of links to Discord then for you. No worries. I can do that for you. Mexi, Texi, anything for you. Right, what's her name again? Because let me get her name before I close down the stream. Suzanne Caper. After you told me about it, I went to look at it. I do sort of remember this trial then. Hang on, let me go into Discord. How about Discord? Discord. So what I'll do, where do I put it? Uh-huh. 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 Okay, I'll put it there for you. I'll no, what I'll do is, you only want temporary anyway, don't you? So I'll create the channel for it. There. Alright, I created it, so I'll tag you in. As I say, I don't know. Oh crap, I've tagged you in wrong. Right. I don't know if you can access all of these or not, but you know, I'll just post them. Hang on, let me end that poll. Let me put this. You see, you're in a mind of a genius here now. Looking at the mind of a genius. Then we'll finish the stream then. Because tomorrow we got some. I'll post some of these links because some people actually might want to look at themselves. So I'll repost them. That one there then. That one there. Is Frankie doing a 24 thing this year or something like that? Because that'll be quite good. I'm too late. I just can't be asked to. I haven't got time to do all that stuff. So I'll repost some of these. Just to keep any of you guys. Oh, yeah. So if you got stuff, because people might be listening to this, it's okay. Cool. Thank you for that, Maxi. If anyone wants to see some of these, they're in Discord. You've done Danielle Kirsty one, happy days. It's just interesting for some other people that might want to see some of these things. I'm gonna post the sun one. I don't think. Did I do the sun? No, so I'll do the sun and the Manchester one now. Once I do the Manchester one, I know I've done all of those ones then. Damn you. Let me post it properly. Right. There. There. That one there. Fine. Right, let me go back to the actual task in hand then. So it's an interesting case, this one. If you guys haven't seen it, I would recommend for you to have a gander. Because it is interesting. Oh, the Sun one says, oops. Okay, it's not a bad thing. Sun sucks. Anyway. But I will get the Sun for you again. Once I. There. More. I mean, they might Mexi, it might be the same one. You know, repeating it again and again. I don't know, but these are all the things that are coming up anyway. Which one was that one then? Let me go to the next page then. Copy link. Put it there. No, I don't want that bad boy. Don't want that like that, do I? Oh yeah, it's fine. It'll do. It will do. There. I think they've all got a little bit different things in it. So what else have we got here? Okay, got another one here, baby male. Anyone that finds this boring, I don't care. This is for Mexi, sexy. So we're doing it. Right. There's an Apple podcast. I'll copy the link. Not sure if you want this or not. But that's an Apple podcast on it. Right, the Sun one again then. Let me get a Sun one for you guys. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Maxi, taxi, Maxi, taxi, Maxi, taxi, Maxi, taxi. Right, I think I'm coming to the end of it now because I think they're the same old links now. I mean, I'll put this in, right? It's a Reddit thing. I don't know if you want it or not, but I'll put it in anyway, just in case. No idea. No, that's Spanish. We don't need Spanish. Oh, right, BBC here. Not sure what that's got to do. I think I got you. I think I'm done. I think they're all the same now. So there we are. If you remember, go to Discord, you can have a look. Sarcasm. Thank you. Let's stop a whole stream and make me, yeah, I'll make you happy. Happy days. I could look at more Reddit. If you want more Reddit stuff, there were more Reddit stuff there. I just posted that one, but there were definitely more Reddit stuff there. If you want anything, just ask in Discord. It's fine. I don't mind doing that for you. Anything for you, Mexi. Right. So just so you guys know, tomorrow, 9 o'clock. I'll eat some of this. I got a sore throat. My niece was off today with sore, well, not off, but she came back with sore throat and stuff. I'm like, oh no, don't make me get ill. So we got this Danielle Redlick trial, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock UK time, 3 o'clock European time, right? Tomorrow. We're going to play about 2.5 hours, something like that of it. Straight after it, Bing Bang Bosh, Kiraga quadruple family murder trial. That's what we got. So we got that. So just spoiler, but it doesn't matter. Tomorrow it'll be the start of Danielle Redlick. She's testifying. She's taking a stand. So the next most tomorrow and Friday will be her testimony, basically. I think all day 4 is her, most of it anyway. So just so you know, so that's who we've mostly got tomorrow is her. I think we might have a couple of witnesses before she goes on. Then we've got the real trial, the proper trial that we're trying to watch, the Kiraga murder trial, quadruple murder trial. So that's what we're doing. The state rested today. There we are, Nunia. So they rested. So there we are. I think she goes on tomorrow then. So then on Monday, Tuesday, we will stream 2 hours before the other stream. And then Wednesday will be the verdict and stuff. So we've not got long to go. There's about 12 hours of streaming to go. We've got 2 full days to go, and then the verdict. That section of it. So, and that's about an hour and a half, I think. So we'll do that Wednesday. So there's not massive long to go. Tomorrow should be interesting. Friday should be interesting. But apparently the testimonies, whatever. Then obviously, I'm not sure what happens on. Actually, let me just have a quick gander to see if there's anything that I can dissect from there. Hang on, let me just go on YouTube. Danielle red wine. Boo, boo, boo. Red wine. Red wine. Red. All right, let me go to the other one then. Red wine. Oh, okay. Okay, so she's still on. It looks like she's still testifying on the day 5 as well. Okay, fine. There we are. There must be closings and stuff then, I imagine. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. That's day 5. Day 6. Oh, day 6. Oh, it's testimony day 6 as well. Is there like a rebuttal day 6 and then the verdict? I presume. So there we are. There we are. Fine. It is what it is. Oh yeah. Unless we missed it, none here. I don't think I missed it though. I don't think we've had any. Well, maybe I did miss it. I don't know. There were 1 or 2 witnesses, remember, that I didn't catch. Maybe it's one of them. Ooh, sorry, apologies if that's the case. That is strange. Yeah, I must have missed it. But anyway, I got sore throat coming. Bollocks. Now Jonathan's going into bloody politics now, right? That's where I leave it. Thank you, everybody. I know it was, as I say, it's not be the best trial, as in streams for trials, but look, I love every single one of you. Thank you, everybody, especially for your support. I appreciate that. Oh, Jesus, Jonathan. So yeah, thank you, and I shall see you all tomorrow, 9 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock UK time. But as I say, I feel like I'm dragging this now. We'll push this trial out. We'll just do it, bang it out. But then the proper trial then is. I feel bad for saying that, but that's the way it is. That's what we're doing. So with that, love you all. Love you to see the girl today as well. Love you to see you all. Thank you for subscribing. And with that, we shall see you all tomorrow. So with that, free Zachary Anderson. And thank you. Take care, everyone. Ta-ra now. Ta-ra.